Dun, 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 dun.
And we're live on election night, election day, election night. Welcome to Of the People. Ericka, how are you?
I'm doing well, Robert. How are you?
I'm good. So we have chock full of guests, people a
Yes.
lot smarter than me. They're probably as smart as you, but they're a lot smarter than me coming on. So special
Yes.
edition, 2 hours, election eve
Yes.
or election evening, because election eve would be last night. So let's go right to the monologue and let's start bringing our guests on. Stay tuned. We have Paul Teller, who is the executive director of Advancing American Freedom. We have Samantha Edis, New York Times bestselling author, entrepreneur, podcaster, TV personality as well, joining us first segment. So let's get right to it.
Yes. All right. Here we go.
And
Do you want me to give you the credit roll again, or are you ready?
no, I think you could just disappear.
Bye.
And good evening and welcome to an election edition of The People. I'm Robert Chernin. Nice to be joining you again. So another year, another election. And you know what that means, right? It means more boarding up of the buildings, more businesses shutting down in anticipation, calling out the National Guard, and the rest of the country is on pins and needles to see, depending on who wins, just how peaceful these mostly peaceful protests will now be going forward. On a very serious, less cynical note, because I am from New Jersey, which is where the cynicism comes from, here's what I hope for. I hope whoever wins this election, look, everyone knows I'm a Trump supporter, already cast my vote. But regardless, whoever wins this election, I hope it is by a significant majority, an overwhelming majority. I hope there is a clear winner here, both in the Electoral College and the popular vote. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as we've talked about many times, we are not a democracy. We hear the word all the time, but what we are is a constitutional republic. So it is not just popular vote, it is also the Electoral College that matters. Outside, I hope that this is outside any margin of error and any of political shenanigans that may or may not be going on, whether it's ballot harvesting or ballot drop boxes or people who are non-citizens voting, because the Constitution is very clear on that, on federal election law. I also hope that the results are known today or tonight, not tomorrow, not in 5 days, not in 10 days. It is not election month. It is not election season. It is election day. I hope, since I was involved way back in the day, we do not have another replay of 2000 Bush v. Gore in Florida. Based on polling, if it does happen, might end up being in Pennsylvania. Here's what else I hope is that going forward, that while I'm a 10th Amendment guy, that I respect states' rights to control their elections, I hope that we at some point establish a national holiday for federal elections. So that takes that off the table. I hope that we have voter ID. It's a simple thing. You have to have an ID from everything from birth to death. And I hope that there is some paper trail to be able to non-computerize so that each and every vote does count in this. I am an old Ronald Reagan guy. It is trust, but verify. And it's a very simple thing. The right to vote is a sacred American obligation. And I hope that, because we're not a democracy, that I hope that people understand that it starts and ends at the ballot box. It is a sacred right. Now, that's what I hope for. Of course, then again, I still believe in the tooth fairy, and I still believe that Oswald acted alone in shooting Kennedy. So there's that, and what the hell do I know? In any event, ladies, welcome, and gentlemen, welcome to election night of the people. We're thrilled to bring back with us Ericka. Come on back in.
Yes.
And we're thrilled to have Paul Teller, the executive director and SVP of Advancing American Freedom, and Samantha Edis joining us, New York Times bestselling author, podcaster, 2024 New Voices, which if you haven't seen, you have to check that out as well. It's been making a huge dent. Paul, Samantha, welcome to Of the People.
Thank you, Bob and Ericka. I dressed up for you today. I'm wearing my 2016 Hillary for President sweater.
I like it. I like throwbacks. I like vintage. I'm into it.
Well, if you like vintage, you like me, because just you look at me, I am vintage. So that's okay. I got that part. So I want to jump right into this. And Samantha, since you have the vintage sweater, we're going to start with you. You are on the West Coast. Just sort of, what are you
Mm.
seeing? What's the turnout like? I mean, obviously, I don't think in any realistic possibility that Donald Trump takes California, but what's the energy like? What are you seeing there?
Yes, I am in the very conservative state of California, where I don't think that Kamala has too much to worry about, although I really think that this year is an election unlike any other we've ever seen. And I do think that it's going to be closer in California than people anticipate. And
Really?
that doesn't mean that I think that, Trump is going to sweep in other typically Democratic places. But I do think that voting is different this year. I'm obviously, as you know, a big Jewish activist, and the Jewish population is really going to make a difference in this election. Even though we are very small, we are very mighty in terms of voting, and I do think that we're going to see a lot of surprises tonight.
That's a good jump off point. In terms of the Jewish vote, Paul, right? I saw Lakewood, New Jersey, right? Let's stay with the blue states. Lakewood, New Jersey, other places where there's heavy Jewish population, really lining up. Now, I don't know if they're voting for Trump, but certainly there's passion for turnout. What are you seeing within the Jewish community in terms of the vote in the blue states? Because I know, look, you're a DC person, so you must be saturated with all of this. What are you seeing with regards to the Jewish vote?
That is the curse, I guess, of being a swamp creature, right? You just get bombarded with information from all over the country, which is both great and overwhelming at the same time. Honestly, I think of the different traditionally Democratic groups that maybe are trending more towards Republicans, Jews are probably the lowest, I'd imagine. In other words, Hispanics are going big time over to Republicans. Blacks, especially black men, seem to be going pretty significantly. And Jews, like maybe a drop in the bucket. I hope I'm wrong, but my fellow Jews anecdotally don't seem to be moving very much. Yeah, there were a couple of friends that seem to have voted Trump that historically voted Democrat. But I don't know. My experience, I'm curious to Sam's thoughts, but my experience in the Jewish world politically and personally is not many, unfortunately, have moved because other issues are top of mind for them, like abortion, Trump hatred, other such things.
We actually, I'm sorry, Sam. We did hear that a lot today when we were out doing exit polling interviews. A lot of people who called themselves Republicans said, I just hate Donald Trump so much that I came out to vote against him. We heard that across the board. So go ahead, Sam.
No, I was going to echo what you're saying, Ericka, which is that I think this is such a strange election because you have, on one hand, you have an incredible female turnout, which we have never seen this great a turnout of women voters, which is obviously super exciting. But then at the same time, we are seeing a lot of people who are just there to vote against Trump. It would be anyone versus Trump. They're not necessarily in love with Kamala. They are just so, their hatred and fear of Trump is so great that anyone would do instead of him. So I do think that this is a very unusual election. I think that, obviously Nate Silver did a very poor job at predicting the 2016 election, but I do think that even he said that it is literally neck and neck and it's going to be a hair, and he hasn't predicted either way who's going to win. So I think that this is my Oscars. I am just so excited for tonight. Like this is that okay to say when our entire democracy is at stake? Yes, that's how I see it.
Yeah, you can bring. Look, when you're done with the show, you can bring the popcorn and you can watch. I'm probably going to have my own. But the interesting thing, you bring up polling, because Sam, in 2016 and in 2020, most all of the polls were wrong. I think the only one that was closest, and Paul, you live in this world more than I do. Wasn't it Trafalgar? I think Trafalgar was the one that got it.
They got most accurate pollster back in 2016.
So it's so hard with the polls to really figure that out. But here's really what's at stake. And Ericka, do me a favor, pull up the one slide we want to go over, because obviously we're talking about the presidency, and that's for all the bananas, right? But there's so much else that's at stake here. You've got a balance of power in the Senate versus the House, right? You've got a lot more Democratic seats up in the Senate. The House is really close, and then what nobody's really talking about, and if you can pull this one up, Ericka,
yeah, I'm trying. It's being. Oh, there we go. Okay,
not
here
that
we
one.
go. No,
Not
no,
that
no.
one.
Hang on. Settle down.
What no one is also talking about is you've got a 6-3 basically split at the Supreme Court, and you've got two aging justices.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot at stake here, right? So you've got a presidency, the judicial appointments, you got a balance of power, which is close. And really, the truth is, because it is so close in theory, Republicans can sweep both houses. In theory, Democrats can sweep both houses. So and going back to what you were saying, Sam, there's just a lot at stake at this election. So I don't know about the Oscars, but it's definitely a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting that in either case, both sides, let me rephrase that, all sides, because we've got some libertarians coming on here in a little bit.
Yeah.
All sides feel like this election is like the end all be all, right? And this is, and that is the question: is what is America? What does America look like? Do we want to remain and stay, or find a way back to our constitutional roots, or are we having a French Revolution right now?
And I think that might look different on each coast. And again, Sam, you're on the West Coast. I mean, what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
I honestly feel less like a West Coaster and someone who's just so entrenched in what's going on in the Middle East that has skewed my entire perspective on this election and where we're at and what's at stake. So, where I sit, I am looking at the world and thinking we are on the verge of World War III. And who can govern us through that in a very dependable, sturdy way? That is what my biggest concerns are, not just as a voter, but as someone who is representative of a large community. So that's kind of how I think about it. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
But let me ask you a question. I know that at some point you had said, and if I'm paraphrasing, so if I'm quoting you wrong, please correct me. But I thought I read one of your pieces where you felt that Kamala Harris or Kamala, and I'm not trying to mispronounce
whichever one's not racist.
I never get it right anyway. If you want someone who butchers names,
it's Kamala.
Okay, if you want someone who butchers names, I'm the guy. Yeah. But I know that I think you were at the Democratic convention. You felt at the time that you thought that in terms of Middle East, Israel, World War III politics, let's call it, that she would be a better steward, for lack of a better term. And I'm paraphrasing. So dig into that a little bit. I guess the question would be why. So what are the things?
When you look at Kamala Harris's voting record, she has always voted pro-Israel. She has never, ever stepped away from that, never wavered. So to me, that's a huge bonus and a huge thing in terms of dependability. She's not going to suddenly vote against Israel. Now, I think a lot has happened in this election cycle, and she has had to pander to a lot of constituencies that I wish she didn't have to. And so some of what, yesterday she's stomping around Pennsylvania with AOC, who is sort of an enemy to Israel. So it's not that she's sitting here and she looks like a beacon of hope for the Jews or for Israel or for democracy in the Middle East. But I do think that she is dependable. If you look at her voting record, if you look at what she purports to care about, if you look at her speech from the DNC, she's consistently said, I will always back Israel. I will always make sure Israel has what it needs to defend itself. Now, on top of it, I've heard every single, I work every day. I call my colleagues the other Jewish influencers, right? And most of them, especially the vocal ones, are Republicans. So I've heard so many pro-Trump Jewish, pro-Israel arguments, and I know them all and I understand them all, right? He was very integral in the Abraham Accords. He relocated the embassy to Jerusalem. I could go down the list. His daughter is married to a Jew, etc. However, when we look at Donald Trump's personality, his lack of empathy, his unpredictability, the way he panders to anyone who praises him. If you write that guy a love letter, he will send you his nuclear secrets tomorrow. And that is what terrifies me.
I understand. So, Paul, let me jump to you. Let me jump in here because, Paul, you were special assistant to President Trump for legislative affairs, right? So you certainly know the man.
Sure.
And I understand the public perception of him. And again, just to sort of put this in perspective, I grew up in New Jersey. To me, Donald Trump is like a lot of guys I knew from Queens, right? It's that same mannerism, so I don't find it offensive, but I understand it. But from an insider's perspective, where is Trump on Israel? Because I think a lot of things that Sam said are correct. I understand people's concerns. I don't personally have them, but as you were special assistant to the president. So talk a little bit about, Trump on Israel and your perspective.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That was one of the top issues for me about our administration. In other words, look, there were maybe certain things that we did in our administration that I didn't necessarily love as a staffer. You follow the president's orders. He's the man who got elected. But man, when it came to Israel and the Middle East, it just was tremendous. All you have to do is the things that Sam listed, absolutely. But for me, the top was the Abraham Accords. I mean, under Donald Trump, you get peace, and under Obama and Biden-Harris, you've got wars breaking out. So what's unfortunate was how many countries were kind of lined up in the queue, ready to join the Abraham Accords towards the end of the Trump-Pence administration, and just time ran out. And of course, there was no effort to get those accords expanded during the Biden-Harris years. And why is that? Because, I don't think they are particularly pro-Israel. I know the rhetoric is there. Some of the votes are there, no question. But you get the counter rhetoric too. Perfect example, right? Kamala Harris all the time saying Israel has the right to defend itself. Next sentence, and we must have a ceasefire. Ridiculously conflicting. I mean, imagine if it was like, you have a right to defend yourself in your home. You just can't fire a gun or use, knives or any weapons. Ridiculous.
Well, why do you think so few cabinet members from the former Trump administration are supporting him, including his vice president?
I'll respectfully dodge that question only because, very proud of the 4 years that I was there, no question. But the way things ended were not how I would have had the administration end. And the way
how would you have ended it?
I was hoping, frankly, for celebrations of those previous 4 years and just saying, we'll be back. We will run again. We lost.
And I think, Sam, your question is interesting, and he actually answered that on the Joe Rogan interview last week or the week before, whenever it was. And he said, I was advised badly. It was the first time I heard Trump admit that he chose poorly. And that he was like, I had a bunch of neocons. I got told to, put all these neocons in place, and then I figured out that they weren't good. And
you believed him.
I think that as a person who I consider myself personally a small government conservative. So however I feel about social issues and things like that is different. But, I don't like those big government conservatives. I'm not a fan of the neocons. I don't like people who send people. I'm not for the foreign wars and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't like anybody he chose.
And you think Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and the people he said he's going to choose for his new cabinet are going to be stronger than his previous administration?
Yeah, I can answer that question. I actually think they will be. I'm a longtime DC guy. Not like Paul is still there. I actually got out of Dodge about 15 years ago. For better or for worse. And I think that I was involved with Bush 43 when he was governor and he wasn't running, and then he was candidate Bush, and then it was President-elect Bush, it was President Bush, and it was re-election of President Bush. And I will tell you, I saw that man evolve. He was a very different person. The core was still the same, but evolved, was smarter as he went along. I never doubted that he always tried to do the right thing. Right, as you recall, I ran the Jewish outreach for the re-election in 2004. So I think Donald Trump probably learned a lot the first go around. I do believe him. He is not eloquent when he speaks. He is not Obama. I mean, who I think is one of the most gifted speakers I've ever heard. Although I don't really have an issue with it. A lot of the people that were in the first administration were what I would call sort of the establishment. Tulsi Gabbard is not the establishment. RFK is not the establishment. And I think one of the things that propelled Trump into office the first time, and I believe, truth be told, I think he wins this time too, is the same thing, is there is a desire, maybe not to burn it down from the American public, but just to really bring about.
No, there definitely is a desire on both sides.
I get that, but for different reasons with different results, I would argue.
That's true.
But to effect great change because the government has gotten too big and into too many people's lives. I think that's the driving force here. So to answer your question, yeah, I do believe him. I mean, no one runs to be president without a massive ego. No one. It just doesn't happen.
And so, I want to also just be really clear. I don't trust any politicians. I'm not sitting here like the people who are like, Trump is Jesus, like, I'm like, nah, bro, no, he is not. And he was not my choice in the primaries. But what I do appreciate and again, what I appreciate, but trust, but verify, is that he is trying to build a coalition. So we're going to talk about the two-party system a little bit more with our libertarians in the next segment. But, the point of the two-party system and the presidency is that they're supposed to build a coalition of Americans. That's the whole point of the Electoral College, is that you have to build a coalition of diverse people from diverse backgrounds in order to win the Electoral College.
I think one thing you said, Bob, in the very beginning really struck me, which is you hope that there is a decisive victory on either side. And the reason you hope that, I presume, is because you're concerned that there will be an objection to the results. Now, do you really in your heart believe that there would ever be a serious objection if Kamala loses? No, I think that you're saying, I don't want Trump to have any way to have a less than peaceful transfer of power. Now, doesn't that alarm you as it pertains to our democracy?
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that regardless of who wins and regardless of who loses, there is now a precedent going back to 2000. Let's not forget that Al Gore challenged the election results. And you can go back to every election since 2000. Al Gore really
won that election, but yeah.
Debatable.
We're having election denial now. We're having election denial. We're going to get kicked off of YouTube. Hold on. Exactly. We've got Steve Rosenberg here for just a few minutes, you guys, so we wanted to bring him in.
So sitting in Fox News' studio. Hello, Mr. Rosenberg.
I like it.
Hey, Robert. How are you? Good to see everybody.
I'm good. You're joining Paul Teller and Samantha Edis.
Yes. I've been listening to them. I like Paul's comments better than Samantha's, but I don't know Samantha well enough to say that. So
she's very sweet. She's very nice.
She's lovely.
Right, Bring it on, Steve. Lovely. I can take it.
What's that? Hey, Steve? Why don't you tell everybody what that yellow ribbon is on your lapel?
Absolutely.
Well, some people say it's bring them home, but I wrote a piece a long while ago that it shouldn't be bring them home. It should be let them go. There's a nuanced difference between the two of them. Bring them home puts the emphasis on the Israelis to bring them home. But this war would have ended a long time ago if Biden and Harris had the gumption to not stop Israel from going into Rafah. Because don't forget, Samantha, Kamala read the maps in Rafah. She studied those maps and told Israel not to go in. Kamala couldn't find Rafah on a map if you spelled it out for her. But she told the Israelis not to go into Rafah. And you know who was in Rafah? Yahya Sinwar and a bunch of hostages. So this pin means let them go, not bring them home.
I appreciate that, Steve, and I couldn't agree more. I think I know that the woman who created the Bring Them Home campaign, she was 22 years old, and there was a marketing issue. But yes, I completely agree with you on that. However, we obviously, if we went head to head on mistakes, it would be unending. And clearly that was a huge mistake that Kamala made, and there's no denying it. That was a terrible mistake. And for all of the propaganda people who said all eyes on Rafah, it was a horror show. So I couldn't
Let's
agree
also
more.
say that her continued talk about a two-state solution, or as I like to call it, two-state delusion, is asinine. There is no two-state solution. The Palestinians have been offered land since 1947, and every time they're offered land, they not only spit in Israel's face, they go and they kill Jews in Israel. Enough talk about two-state solution. Any leader, quote unquote, that talks about a two-state solution is not a leader. They're a liar. Trump showed that the Abraham Accords are the only path forward. Economic cooperation, economic collaboration, peace through strength is the only way forward. He may not be the hero we asked for, but he's the hero we've got. And he has been the best ally that we have.
I want to know what you guys think about, this almost feels to me like one of those issues that gets left on the table year after year so that we can have things to argue and be mad at each other about, and that the candidates can have things to fundraise on. Like they could have fixed abortion a million years ago and they didn't. They could have fixed a bunch of stuff a million years ago at the border, like fill in the blank. Does anybody else kind of feel like this is one of those issues that our politicians are leaving on the table? Paul, as an insider, I'm kind of curious. I've got my tinfoil hat on. I don't know if you noticed.
And by issue, you mean Israel? The Israel issue? Is that
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I see that. I feel like, well, let's put it this way. Under Donald Trump, Mike Pence, we saw just tremendous action like we never saw before. Like some of the examples before, moving the embassy, recognizing the Golan Heights, recognizing Judea, Samaria, things like that, were all things that were promised before. Some were even in U.S. law, right? Moving the embassy was something in U.S. law. Just no president actually did it. So I would say, during those years, we did see actual forward motion, forward action. And I think we'll see it again under Trump-Vance administration.
Okay.
So
don't forget,
Sam,
we also had the greatest ambassador that Israel's ever had in David Friedman, and the best Secretary of State that Israel's ever had in Mike Pompeo.
Wasn't he also the first gay cabinet member? Was it the Israeli ambassador?
No.
I know, whatever. It was first openly gay cabinet member was under Donald Trump.
Was that Grinnell? Rick Grinnell?
I thought it was Israel, but I'm going to look that up. Ben, will you look that up for me?
Yeah, I don't think it was cabinet. But so, Sam, I have a question for you because, one of my concerns, with Kamala, right, is not even necessarily her, although, we could certainly debate that, but it's the company you keep, right? There is such an anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party, right? The squad and those things. How do you reconcile that? So Kamala Harris wins, let's say she wins the election. Okay. How do you, just like you said, last night she's traipsing around with AOC in Pennsylvania, closing argument. How do you deal with that wing of the party? Because I would argue Joe Biden's history has always been pro-Israel until he became president. And it was at the same time that there was this ascendancy within the Democratic Party of sort of, let's call it the squad wing of the party.
I mean, listen, we're slowly getting rid of those people. We've been knocking them off one by one. They're awful. I actually just tweeted to AOC today that everyone will be better off when she leaves the party for good and never comes back. So I'm with you on all of that. However, I think that if we went head to head, I mean, to me, AOC is the equivalent of the David Duke of the Republican Party. We have horrible humans on both sides. And luckily, whoever wins for president, we have to hope, will not be bringing those people over to the White House. And
but Robert, it's not Robert.
But David Duke's not in Congress.
It's not the squad, Robert. It's who she's going to bring with her: Mahar Bitar and Philip Gordon and Elon Goldberg and all those people who are not elected officials.
Is harmless. I mean, come on.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Look at the records. These are the people that she has surrounded herself with. Biden leftovers, Obama leftovers. These are people that are dangerous to the Jewish community, to Israel. Mahar Bitar is one of the worst offenders against the Jews.
Bitar is a problem.
Steve, how do you defend Tulsi Gabbard, who's pretty much at this point a known Russian spy, and we need to be fighting against Russia, not with Russia? How do you defend Tulsi Gabbard as a cabinet choice?
I don't.
So what do you think about that?
I would say that Trump would be incorrect in bringing Tulsi Gabbard in, but
he said that he's going to be bringing her in.
Is 100 times worse. 100 times worse. Look at Mahar Bitar's record. I just look him up. Look at what he has done as a leader of Students for Justice in Palestine. It is incomparable. And to say Ilan Goldberg is not
Students for Justice in Palestine. I could not agree more. But let's go back to Tulsi Gabbard. Let's go back to RFK. You think he's surrounding himself by people who are smart enough to lead us through World War III?
RFK is a proponent of Israel and the Jews. I would take RFK all day, every day.
Have you followed his rhetoric? He is
every minute of every day. RFK is with us, Samantha. RFK is with us. He's reading the wrong things.
But we have a whole world to think about. It's like just thinking about one aspect, and you're a really great dresser just on top. Like that doesn't really matter. Right?
Samantha, if this is a one-issue election. If there are no Jews left in 4 years, nothing else matters. And RFK is staunchly with us. I don't care about abortion or climate or gun control or anything else if we're all sitting in the camps.
What do you think?
That
how do you justify
January
6th and the fact that this is a man who said he
will
not
justify what happens in America?
All right, guys.
This is meant to be a friendly conversation.
Steve, this is
I want to know how do you justify what happens in American cities every day? January 6th was a blip compared to what happens in America every single day under Joe Biden.
I think the point that you guys are both getting to is that we're all having to justify the worst part of our own parties, right? And that's the reality. Like, you know,
way to bring it home, Ericka. I love that.
It really is. That is. I think that, but this is the point, isn't it? I mean, you know, we deserve better psyops as Americans, and again, that's why I've got my tinfoil hat. These are topics designed to divide us.
They are, but I want to go back to Steve's point of this guy Bitar. You got to bring him up because he really is poison to the Jews, and he will be he'll be the head of Director of National Intelligence, will he not, Steve? That's what I'm being told. So this is a bad guy, and again, all of us on here, and Paul, please jump in here. You know, I mean, I've never known, other than Samantha and Steve, you usually are, much more talkative than me, right? So I mean, not used to you being so quiet, Paul. Okay. But if you look up this guy Bitar, he's going to be Director of National Intelligence, and as we all know, as goes Israel, goes the Western world, right? So it's not just, we all know that as Jews, it's a canary in the coal mine. This is not just a battle to drive the Jews into the sea. This is a fundamental war of civilizations, right? Sort of a radical Islamic view versus Western values that supports women's rights, gay rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, those kinds of things. Paul, what do you know about Bitar, Paul? Because I know you are.
No, I was actually not a lot. Not a lot. In fact, I'm sitting here going like, like,
we got to bring him up.
I apologize.
Oh, Steve, put on the spot.
Steve, you're on.
Sorry. He's a bad guy. His rhetoric, his leadership in SJP, his connectivity to the Muslim leadership, Arab leaders,
and the Muslim Brotherhood.
And the Muslim, it's beyond. And
I don't think he'll end up being in the cabinet. I really don't.
I'll take those odds. If you want to make a side bet, Samantha, I'll take it.
Well, and this is why this, I love this conversation. I love this conversation, and here's why: because you guys are setting us up for the next segment. It's perfect. This is why I always say that we're not supposed to care this much about who the president of the United States is. things have gone too far when everyone thinks that the world is going to end based on who the president is, and it was never supposed to be that way.
But don't you think, Ericka, that this hysteria was started by Trump? I mean, this was, listen, if Ben Sasse or someone more normal and mainstream in the Republican Party was the candidate, we wouldn't feel this hysteria.
But the Republican electorate doesn't want, traditional. The Republican Party is sick and tired of neocons and the same old. They want people who don't look down on them, who don't call them bitter clingers and deplorables. When you have our political class continuously demonizing the American people, shipping their jobs overseas, and again, demonizing them for their beliefs, like unfortunately, the Democratic Party left many of us behind. I'm a person who used to consider myself a Democrat, and then I got called all kinds of names, and I was told a bunch of crap, and then I found out that fake news was real, and they were really lying about the stuff Donald Trump said, and it ruined me. It ruined
Robert,
me.
I have to go. Sorry,
Okay.
I just want to say that if there was no Obama, there would be no Trump. Obama started all this. So
Yes.
on that note, I got to go. See you guys. Thanks for
I
having me.
agree with that.
Thanks, Steve. So I want to go back to Mahar Bitar. I check in the chat. You're going to see a link. It's a Canary Mission. It's a Canary Mission link on who this guy is.
Yep.
He is slotted to be the head of Director of National Intelligence. I mean, that is a known. Well, it's not a fact, right? It is a supposition, but I agree with Steve. I mean, the problem is not even necessarily Kamala Harris to me, but the people that she surrounds herself with. And a lot of that, he is correct, is sort of a leftover, some in the Obama administration. And let's not forget the ascendancy of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, with Obama's encouragement in 2008. So look, it's a concern. I think we agree on the next thing about this segment is we agree on the goals. I think we may disagree on how to get there.
Yeah.
But here's Mahar Bitar. So for the people on the show, listening to the show, I don't mean you, Sam, or you, Paul. This is the guy that you need to research. He is a pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel member of the Biden administration with the likelihood of being appointed the head of the Director of National Intelligence.
Believe me, I completely agree about the fact that we cannot be person to person comparing the cabinet. I think for me, anyone who's not Trump is the right candidate. I can't be an apologist for a lot of things that Kamala's done, but she is not Trump. And for me, I can't vote for a rapist and a racist. Like, it just won't happen. And that's one of the 5,000 reasons that I don't think Trump should get anyone's vote.
Hey, one thing that's interesting difference between the two parties on Israel is in the Republican Party, you could full-throatedly support Israel in any setting, anywhere, big, small group, private, public, whatever. Try that in the Democratic Party. Go to a Democratic rally, grab a microphone and say, "I love Israel," and just stop. You can't do it. Is Leader Hakeem Jeffries going to criticize the squad by name or these possible cabinet members by name? No chance. Cannot be done. And if they do somehow get a little bit of praise in there or criticism of anti-Semitism, it always has the "yeah, but," right? Anti-Semitism is terrible, says a Democratic leader. Yeah, but there's also Islamophobia. Yeah, but there's racism against blacks, Asian. It's never just straight defending the Jews, straight defending Israel. It's always like, Israel has a right to exist and defend itself. But what about Gaza? What about Hezbollah, Syria, Houthis, all the others? So I think that's a huge difference between the two parties.
I don't know what your friends look like, but if it is fair to say that it is completely unsafe for people of color in a Trump administration because he does not care about them. And he has shown that again and again and again. And what he did in Charlottesville.
I think that's a broad. I think that's a broad brush.
We'll have to come back to that topic another time.
Real quick. So Sam and Paul, real quick. I know who you're going to predict wins, but how wide is the margin you think Kamala Harris wins by, Sam? And how wide's the margin, Paul, you think Trump wins by?
Okay,
real quick.
So Bob, first I want to say that I thought my DC insider friends really kind of made me think Trump.
Are you answering that way because you're lying or because you're stupid?
For some reason, I've fortune telling capabilities. In the last 24 hours, Kamala is going to win, and I think 1%.
I want fortune telling capabilities. What did you do to get that?
Well, that's another show.
All right, we'll talk about that the next time you come on.
Paul, you have the final word.
Predictor thing, the app where you predict the electoral college. I think it was like 280 something for Trump is what I came out with. So pretty narrow. I didn't do the popular vote because I figure who cares? It's not how we choose the president. It's like predicting how many total runs will be in the World Series. Who cares, right? It's 4 out of 7 games. Same thing here. It's a series of contests aggregated together. So I only did the electoral college prediction for me.
All right.
Ooh,
Sam
well,
and Paul, thank you guys both for joining us. Sam, I'm with you. As soon as I'm done with this show, I'm grabbing a bowl of popcorn, and I'm going to
pajamas and popcorn. Yes, you guys can come over if you're in the same city.
Yes,
you got it. Thank you so much for
all
joining
right,
us,
guys.
Sam. Paul,
thanks,
appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to take just a moment to hear from our sponsor, ASAC, and hear what they have to say about defending American freedom.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights. Freedom to pray to God in our own way. Freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm. And freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns. And freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened.
ASAC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight.
And we're back.
We are back. Thank you again, Paul Teller. Thank you again, Samantha Edis.
Yes.
Roll them.
Yes. All right.
Ericka?
We've got Dennis Pratt and Olga Maria. We've got our libertarian friends here today. Do we have audio for? Oh, wait. Let's see. Olga, you were muted.
Hey.
Can we hear you guys?
Hello.
I love it. I love it. So, Dennis, Olga, I'm super excited to have you guys both on to get the Libertarian Party perspective. Dennis, especially you being in New Hampshire with rumors that New Hampshire could flip red.
And the Libertarian Party, if I'm not mistaken, just endorsed Donald Trump. Was it yesterday in New Hampshire?
Yes, there's already a move to try to disaffiliate the LPNH from the Libertarian Party
like every
for
other
doing
week,
this.
but that happens every other week. So
That's true. We in New Hampshire, we're basically a separatist group here in New Hampshire. The Libertarians have been kind of a small minority for a very long time. We don't seem to be able to impress either the Republicans or Democrats that people should leave each other be. So we're moving all of us to one small state, New Hampshire, and there create kind of a libertarian state. And so,
Oh, sorry, Dennis, that's part of the Free State Project, right? Is that what you're talking about? For our listeners who don't know about the Free State Project.
So New Hampshire would leave the union. Wait, explain this to me. Because by the way, so I live in New Hampshire, right? I live in New London. And if you search way back in like the late 90s, I was the guy living in Killington who wanted Killington, Vermont to secede from Vermont to join New Hampshire. So
Yeah,
that
let's
was when
do
Jim
that.
Douglas was. That was when George Bush was president, and Jim Douglas was the governor of Vermont. That didn't go over so well. So explain to me this whole free state thing.
Yeah. So the Free State Project is the libertarians basically saying that we really can't control New Hampshire, and that what we need to do is to aggregate, to consolidate our people into one small state. I mean, you've seen this with Mormons in Utah, and the gays in San Francisco, and Chinese in Chinatown, and frankly, the Jews in Israel, where you have a fairly small group of people who aren't mainstream, who aren't particularly liked by the political powers that be, and they consolidate in order to basically have a type of society that they want. I mean, our society is a live and let live society, a live free or die society. So you can see why we chose
just fine.
New Hampshire.
Where's my?
And so it's like it's so frustrating for us to watch all these horrible people fight over what horrible things they're going to do to us from DC. When all we want to do is we want to say, look, if you guys want to do horrible things to each other, God bless, go do it, but leave us be. So that's what that's what we're kind of focused on in the small state of New Hampshire. I'm over here in Dover, by the way, Robert.
I know, I know here. So Olga, I want to pull you into this because being a Republican in Vermont must be hard, or is hard. Being
I'm a libertarian in Vermont,
and I was going to say, being a libertarian must be even more lonely and much harder in the great state of Vermont. So where are you, Olga? I mean, who's going to win the presidential election? I mean, we know who's going to win in Vermont, right? I mean, that's not in, but I mean, does Trump win? Does Kamala Harris win? And where does the libertarian values line up better?
If Trump somehow won Vermont, just for the record, I will eat my shoe. I will. Pigs, I will be like on the lookout for pigs flying.
And the rest of your clothing too. I mean, it's not real. Happening.
Okay, go ahead though, Olga.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, and I'm so happy Dennis is here. Dennis and I are very good friends. So what I'm doing is I'm packing.
Oh, you're moving to New Hampshire.
Yeah, eventually, because it's perfect that we have like a Vermonter and a Granite Stater, because Vermont is literally like the upside down. We're the socialist state project. You have the free state project. You can clearly see what is working and what isn't working. And I'll give you an example. After all of these new school budgets were passed and all our property taxes increased, within 3 weeks, there were like 15 houses in my town that went on sale. And the for sale signs have not stopped.
Because everybody's piecing out. What was it, like a 20% increase?
Right. Well, and in some cases, 40%.
The border,
depending on where you live.
Between the crime in Burlington, the now porous border in Swanton or wherever up in the Northeast Kingdom.
The entire northern border is compromised, unfortunately.
It is compromised, and then tax value. So, I mean.
But I'm going to tell you what's happening in Vermont, which is pretty exciting. One, more people are kind of waking up because it's really hit their pockets. And unfortunately, the GOP here, unlike New Hampshire, is very weak. There's really poor messaging, but people are desperate. So I think on the statewide level, those candidates that are running, for Senate, with the exception of governor, because although Governor Phil Scott is a Republican, he's really, the progressives' favorite Republican. So that kind of doesn't count. But every other statewide race,
like you,
every other statewide race, I think is going to flop. It's going to stay blue because Chittenden County really is the most populous area, and that really is what drives the statewide races. We may see a few local seats flip from Democrat to independent or Republican, simply because people have just had it. And those tend to be races which might be a little bit easier to run because of what's going on. And because some incumbents have just kind of assumed that, they've been there 13 years or so, and they just kind of assume that, they don't really have to do. And there's been some grassroots stuff happening on the ground. So that's a little bit exciting. In the big picture, clearly, Kamala is going to take Vermont. I think what would be interesting is by how much. If we had a fair election, if we didn't have any issues with the machines that we have in Vermont, I think it would be interesting to see by what percentage. It's a little bit closer. All I see throughout Vermont are Trump signs, with very few exceptions.
In Vermont, you see Trump signs? I'm shocked.
Wow.
Like the one that I have here, Trump Kennedy.
Yes.
And that's kind of like,
by the way, which Kennedy is that?
RFK.
Oh, Robert F. Kennedy. Oh, Trump Vance Kennedy. Sorry, I'm old. That's why I have glasses. I was like, Kennedy. I didn't see the Vance because the red didn't show up. So you're talking about Trump Kennedy.
So it's the unity.
Okay. Right. And that's what I was going to say. That's the other nuance in Vermont is that, in Vermont, there's a decent number of people who are medical freedom voters.
That's right.
It's not the majority, but it's the group of people that really is at the core of the Libertarian Party here. And so there was a little bit of a split of people who are like, they want to vote for Trump. They want to vote for Kennedy. So when Kennedy backed Trump, it was kind of like, this is fantastic, because now it's kind of like this unity. And it really has brought together a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily want to engage with libertarians or Republicans, or people who are really independent, but they just kind of vote for their issue.
Yeah.
And that's full disclosure, Ericka, didn't you run as the Libertarian candidate?
I was. Yes, I was. I was the Libertarian Party candidate for Congress in 2022.
So I'm outnumbered. So I'm the Republican. I'm outnumbered 3-1. I feel like this is like a Democratic convention.
Well,
and we're all voting the same this time, isn't that something?
Well, and that's what I loved. Now, Dennis, you said that the reason you decided to vote for Trump was because Elon is on board promising. Oh, and Ron Paul, by the way, for all of our Ron Paul fans, they're promising to take $2 trillion out of the budget government efficiency.
Doge.
Yes. I went to the national convention, and I was there. I was backing more the right libertarians candidate, and there was a left libertarian candidate who eventually won. Simply because the left just outlasted us until 1:30. In our delegation of 11 people from New Hampshire, 2 were left by 1:30.
Oh my God.
And I actually voted for NOTA, which is none of the above. That we run no one on the thing. But I came back and this is my 13th election. I have never voted for the Republican presidential candidate. I was a little bit upset, but it took me a couple of days, and I just decided I can't vote for the wars. That I came from the left to libertarianism, and I was a anti-war democratic socialist, became a libertarian in the early 80s.
Wait, how do you go from a democratic socialist to a libertarian?
Well,
I need to understand that transition.
I was a Marxist.
Yeah, you're a Marxist and now you're a libertarian.
We actually have about a third of libertarians. So a third of libertarians come from the left.
Yep.
And
why?
It's very weird.
The most because. I could tell you the story. I don't know that we wanted to divert the conversation.
Short version,
Reader's Digest version. Give us the
so if you think
notes.
of libertarianism as being economic freedom, personal freedom, and non-interventionism. So non-interventionism in foreign things, non-interventionism in economics, and non-interventionism in your own body.
I get
the traditional conservative is okay. I'm going to intervene in your body. I'm going to intervene in foreign wars, but I'm going to be at least this was in the 60s and 70s where I come from. But I don't want intervention in the economics. The typical liberal is non-intervention in this was way back.
But wait a minute. Focus for me here, Dennis. How do you go from being Democratic Socialist or a Marxist, in your case, Olga, to a libertarian? Because to me, the spectrum isn't left or right; it's circular, right? There's not linear; it's circular. If you go
it's
too far right, you end up
versus anti-authoritarian.
Yeah,
and then the
right.
ethic is self-ownership. And once you realize that, the light goes off, and it's like, hold on a second. What I'm thinking is freedom is really not. It's really authoritarian, and I'm an anti-authoritarian in nature, and that just kind of opened the door of exploring like what else is out there.
So basically, it's like there's people who think that we should take care of each other, right? You're like you're a moral person, right? You want there to be a social safety net. You want there to be blah blah blah. You want people to care about each other. You don't want corporations to be polluting things. And there was a time that, and we were actually just talking about that earlier today. There was a time in this country that it wasn't the conservatives fighting for clean air, or I'm saying conservatives,
Right.
and to me that means people who are for the Constitution. But
Right.
there was a time that people really abused their power, and so being a leftist was like anti-establishment.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question authority on my lapel all the time. But yes, I think it's consistency, Robert. That if you really like to be consistent, and you realize that there really is very little difference between your own body and the things that you produce with that body. That and that really what we're fighting on for self-ownership is anti-slavery. That you can't take my body. You can't take my body to send it to war. You can't take my body for what I do with it, put into it, take out of it, and you can't take my body's product because that's just a retroactive enslavement. So we become very consistent, and that's why you get people from the left and from the right. I think it's harder to come from the left, and so that's the reason why I think that we have some of our better people, some of our better thinkers are actually from the left, because it's just a harder journey.
No, understood.
Yeah.
So, question in New Hampshire, more granular question. Obviously, New Hampshire, they moved it over into a state that could go for Trump. Dixville, Notch obviously was 3-3 at 12:01 a.m. or whatever it was in the morning. Is it your opinion, Dennis, that the endorsement of the Libertarians could be the difference maker in pushing New Hampshire towards Trump?
Question.
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I will tell you that we were driving around today and we were noticing the number of Trump signs and just remarking how the last two election cycles, it was really hard to put up Trump signs in New Hampshire because people just assumed that you were a racist and a fascist. and so there was all this hidden type of support for Trump, but nobody would ever say it. But after 8 years of being called constantly a racist, and it's just worn out, and people go, "Oh yeah, okay, right," and then they ignore them now.
Yeah, we know
it's really frustrating to the left. I mean, the left's going, "Wait, my super weapon, where is it?"
Right, but I still want the question answered. Will the Libertarian endorsement push New Hampshire to a Trump win?
No,
I'm putting you on the spot, Dennis.
No, I would say that my prediction is that New Hampshire still goes for Kamala. The cities are kind of rule. I mean, we Libertarians own the House in this state. We don't own the Senate or the governorship, mostly because we rule in the more rural areas, and we don't take the cities. And so the cities really kind of overwhelm things right now. I mean, you come to us in about 4 or 8 years when even more Libertarians have moved here, and you'll see a much bigger difference. I would say that we're making a difference. I mean, I've never seen so many Libertarians. This is 13 elections. 13
nationally,
elections.
It's a difference.
This is the first time I voted for a Republican for president.
Same.
So just so you know how big this is. I was going to just do a signal vote for our Libertarian candidate up until Elon Musk and Ron Paul got into cutting 1/3 of the budget. I mean, I don't know how you
Hey,
can be a libertarian and say
I'm
that.
all for I'm all for starving the beast.
I'm all for
starving the beast.
Well, because that is 1/3 of the budget, $2 trillion they're talking about. You can do that. Rand Paul talked about doing this years ago, and they laughed him off.
Yeah.
But if you actually have, it's the trouble is I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for Elon and Ron Paul.
Yeah.
And RFK,
cabinet.
Tulsi. I'm actually voting for Vivek. For bright people who actually can do things. I think I put it this way: I'm not voting for the Barker. I'm voting for the circus.
I got it. Olga, you have the last word.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. We can't let them go yet. Okay. Yeah. I've got a setup here.
We're not. Excuse me. Erica says we're not letting you go yet, and you can tell who's the boss here.
What I was going to say, Robert. What I was going to say, Robert, is that libertarians are at our national convention. Donald Trump showed up. Vivek Ramaswamy showed up.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. showed up. We are going
seeking your vote.
Not only that, but we have and really a lot of the work has our national chair Angela McArdle has worked. So a lot of these policies that are coming out of Trump, ending the taxes against overtime, not taxing tips,
crypto,
cutting the budget, the Department of Government, all of these are libertarian talking points. So obviously he's listening to it. Yeah. And I would just say on a national scale, we're making a huge difference in terms of the policies, but in swing states, especially, I think that libertarian vote is going to make a big difference.
And I agree with you. The libertarian vote, it was a setup, Dennis. I think Trump wins New Hampshire because of the libertarian vote. And there you have it.
Let's see.
Well, and
Robert,
what I want to know.
We'll be finding out pretty soon.
It is after 7 o'clock. So
the question isn't whether Trump wins. The question is who is announced as the winner, right?
Right. There you go.
Oh, speaking of being announced as the winner, that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say, by the way. That's one of my bad transitions. Olga, the Latina libertarian, happens to be Puerto Rican.
That's right.
So I was like, I definitely wanted to get your take on everybody saying that Donald Trump that Donald Trump thinks Puerto Rico is trash. In all sincerity, for those folks who don't know, that comedian was actually trying to shed light on a legitimate problem.
Hashtag trash crisis. He did the biggest favor. So I think it's Daniel. Oh, what's his last name?
Tony Hinchcliffe.
Thank you. Tony Hinchcliffe. He's a comedian and he specializes in roasting people and in roasting things. So he brought it up, but it is because ever since Hurricane Maria that happened in 2017, there's been this huge crisis of the landfills in Puerto Rico that are contaminating the water. Hashtag trash crisis. If you look it up, all of this stuff propagates. And I think the biggest favor he did was just putting it out there and having people look it up. What's even more funny is that in Puerto Rico, people are saying that they want, a lot of people are saying they want Trump to win because during Hurricane Maria, he showed up and he gave, I think it was like $21 billion or something, whatever it was. It was a large amount of money to help the reconstruction. And of course, because of government corruption, like a lot of that has been squandered, which is why this trash crisis is still happening. And many of them are even comparing, his positive response in Puerto Rico, although there was that, gaffe with like the throwing the paper towels or whatever, which people there really didn't care about, with the response to what's happening currently in North Carolina and East Tennessee. And there was one gentleman, right? And no one there complained about that, by the way. But yeah. So I think it's interesting, and it's always funny to me, like the young woman with the Hillary shirt. Like, we don't need white liberals to get upset on our behalf. Honestly, like, we can take care of ourselves. Thank you very much. I feel perfectly safe in a Trump administration because I get to use my Second Amendment rights. So we're fine. In fact, one of the problems with the migrant crisis that is happening right now is that one of the largest groups of people that are being, violated are Hispanics, because they're going into Hispanic areas, and you have a lot of criminals that are coming in.
And
right
overtaking
now,
place. Okay.
and I mean,
can't
one
even-
of my friends who lives in Barry City, Vermont, was assaulted in her backyard by someone who crossed over from El Salvador, who thankfully wasn't arrested in Vermont. They were arrested in New Hampshire. And because he
Wow.
had a record in New Hampshire, he was deported. Had he been arrested in Vermont, I'm pretty sure he would have just been let out. But he had a history for sexual assault in El Salvador, so they deported him there.
Wow,
Ouch.
you guys. Wow, you guys. And that's it. People don't realize you can fly to Canada. You don't need a visa or any of that stuff. And then you can just walk your happy little behind across the border. So,
just to be clear, any Puerto Ricans who want to fly to Canada and walk their happy little
Well,
butt,
we're citizens,
if
so
they're-
we don't have to.
if they're Liberty people, if they're Liberty, if
They
they're,
can just fly
they
straight
can
to
come to New
Manchester.
Hampshire. Just come down. We'll hide you. If you're socialist, go to Vermont. Buy Olga's house so she can move here.
and on that note, ladies and
There you
gentlemen,
go.
That's
we're gonna transition. Olga Maria, the
We need-
Latina
we need to-
libertarian.
We need to have you guys back.
Yes.
I would love it.
Yes. And Dennis Pratt, New Hampshire Libertarian Party Chair. You guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You guys,
Olga, Dennis, thank you.
thank you so much for having us.
Live free or die.
That's right.
right. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, I have to say this has been a super fun show so far. This has been good. Okay, we've got some new background music. Can you hear it?
All of a sudden they said, okay, this isn't going to work. And they were ready, at the ready, because they
Can you
knew
hear
it
that
could
now?
happen. Cheat.
Okay, you guys. So we this one we didn't make we haven't made a video to yet, but for our viewers, you know that we like to make fun rap or house like electronic music out of the rants of politicians and political pundits. So this time I heard a rant from Steven Crowder. We're about to have Jay Shepard on. He hates Steven Crowder, so he's going to hate this one. I hope he's listening. Jay, I see you in the background. I know your camera's off, but I hope you're listening. So this was a rant from Steven
Jay the
Crowder. Jay the Shepherd, a rant from Steven Crowder. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, we're going to turn that into a track. So we're going to play that for just a couple minutes, you guys, while we prep for for our next round of guests.
Cheat. Don't give any genuine interviews or press conferences. Here's another truth. Kamala is either lying or she's stupid. I don't think that this counts. Right, I've told you this. Their playbook is lie, cheat. Or she's stupid. Lie, cheat. I don't think that this counts. Lie, cheat. Biden's fine. Until the polls show Americans don't believe it. Lie, cheat. Install somebody. Coronate Kamala Harris, even though she didn't receive any votes. I don't think that this counts. Lie. Don't give any genuine interviews. Kamala is either lying or she's stupid. And when it doesn't work, cheat. That's what they're going to do in the election. Cheat. That's what they're going to do in the election. Cheat. That's what they're going to do in the election. Lie, cheat. When they realized the lie wouldn't work. There is no door number 3. There's no way it could go
So
on.
that's the theme song. That's the theme song for today. Biden's fine. Lie, cheat. Lie, cheat. All right, we're gonna take a quick moment to hear from one of our sponsors. Robert?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. All right. Let's see about socialism, y'all.
Socialism. The goal of socialism is communism. The world is quite familiar with socialism and the horrors socialism has brought with it. It wasn't that long ago. Actually, it's still with us. Socialism creeps into government slowly until it's too late. Socialism, the big lie. Yes, it could happen anywhere. This educational video was brought to you by the American Center for Education and Knowledge and paid for by people like you. who care about the future of our democracy. Please help us continue our work educating the American public and consider supporting ASAC by making a tax-deductible donation at asacfund.org. And we are back. I'm telling you, Ericka, this is what happens when I give you control of content.
Oh, it's so good. Well, here,
So-
I got to show you, Robert, if you didn't notice, I've switched into a cardigan.
Well, no, I noticed you put on a cardigan.
Yeah, so I took off my suit jacket that I had on earlier, and
Thank
I'm
God.
pulling a little like Mr. Rogers action, putting on my
As
cardigan.
long as it's not, as long as you're not pulling a little Mr. Ed action, I think you're okay.
No,
So-
this is the sweater of an anime character called Bakugo, and he shoots fire out of his hands. I just felt like it was appropriate for today. I just felt like a flame throwing character.
I am
Would be
speechless and
appropriate.
without words. So let's roll to the next section. I am not even going there because anything I say would get us banned on every channel based on that response.
Well, and here's the thing,
So-
you guys. Luckily, we've got an awesome panel coming up of super smart people who are going to argue fantastically. Bruce, why is your camera off? Oh, that's right. He's
Because
not going to have a
Bruce,
camera.
buddy, yeah, we're supposed to have it. We're supposed to have a
Yeah,
headshot.
we're gonna
So
we're
let's
gonna
bring-
get the camera up there.
Ladies
Let's
and
bring them all
gentlemen,
in.
we have Jay Shepard, former longtime RNC committee man from Vermont and political insider. We have the chess master, the grand chess master, Jeff Berkowitz, who is still a DC insider and head of Dell, which is a research firm. We have Dr. Lori Feynman, who is the Dr. Phil in our world.
Yes.
Well, you know,
Yo, she
and
fixed
then-
me. She was like, I figured you out in 5 minutes.
She
and she gave
fixed
me
you?
some advice.
Wait, you were fixed?
Yeah. She's
No,
like
you
wicked
put the
smart, y'all.
cardigan on. You were not
Yeah.
fixed.
Nah, dude.
Sorry,
You're like
Ericka.
And we have Dr. Bruce Abramson with us, I believe, at least in voice only. Bruce, are you
Yes.
with us?
I am with you. I will apologize for that.
the voice of God.
I
Yeah,
am.
he's DOG. He's the voice of God.
I will say I'm saying a safe distance from Ericka and her fire hands. I'm down in Florida, and I'm actually between spending a little time with the Patriot Revival Social Club and the Sarasota Republican Party.
Oh, all right.
And,
Well, hopefully,
and-
hopefully there's some alcohol in between. So let's.
there is,
Let's,
and you should have
let's-
a still photo of me in a suit, looking very professional. Whereas, in fact, at the moment, I am decked out entirely in Americana.
Well, if we can find that and put it up, but I want to start with the chess master, Mr. Berkowitz, Jeff Berkowitz. So we're after 7 o'clock. I'm told that early results are going to be indicative. What are you seeing out there? How's Brown doing against Moreno in Ohio? What's going on in New Hampshire? Is Casey going to win or lose in Pennsylvania? Because that is, you start seeing the early signs. You kind of go, okay, how's it going? And are we going to have hanging chads in Pennsylvania?
Well, if early indications were real in any election, then we would all be talking to former Kerry administration officials.
Touche.
So I would be very cautious about early indicators. A lot of that has more to do with who is more prone to showing up early, to vote early in the day versus later in the day, which tends to be people that don't have anything better to do. And as well as which precincts are better and faster at counting votes, and what states they can start pre-counting, pre-processing early votes and mail-in votes. So it's much more on the technical side than any real indications of what's happening.
Yeah, that's a long-winded answer for where are we at 7 o'clock?
We don't know.
Anyone who tells you they know is lying.
Oh, come on. You've already called Vermont.
But look, if
I have called Vermont.
If you look at the data that we have, we know turnout numbers, and Republicans seem to be turning out in greater numbers than Democrats. The Republican, the Trump campaign and the super PAC supporting them did what they said they were going to do. They turned out early voters. Hilarious after 2 cycles of the media and the Democrats attacking Trump for attacking early voting. When they got it together and did it, the media and the Democrats turned around and were like, oh, well, they're just cannibalizing their election day vote. But in a lot of places, the Democrats did not meet the 2016, 2020 numbers in early votes. And that would be really concerning to me if I was a Democrat. It's going to be a very close election, as I'm sure you've been hearing ad nauseum this whole cycle. And that should be a drinking game. We'd all be drunk very quickly. But it's hard to say. But I was talking to folks in Ohio earlier, and they feel like the wind is at Moreno's back. You can tell what the Bob Casey internals are telling him about the race, because he's running closing ads about how much he agrees with Donald Trump and how he worked with him in office. I think we're definitely seeing a lot of momentum, maybe a little blunted right towards the end, the last couple of days for Trump. We'll see once people start actually getting real and meaningful results and data back in. We'll see. Right now we just have the exit polls, which tell us that it's a very close race. The top issues are concern about democracy, concern about the economy. Majority of people think they are not better off than they were 4 years ago. That's not a good thing for Kamala Harris. Although she claims she was absent for the last 4 years, it had nothing to do with it. So we have these weak signals that give us a guess, but we don't know how the independents swung, either the early vote or late deciders. We don't know how many Republicans shifted, how they were going to vote. But going into election day, I would much rather be Donald Trump than Kamala Harris.
Got it. So I want to talk about, there are two voting blocks, and I want to address this to you, Laurie. There are two voting blocks that seem to be still the stalwarts of the Democratic Party. One is the women's vote, right? Because there's really four pillars in the Democratic Party. One is the women's vote. Second, you would say, is the minority or the black vote, or maybe people of color, right? The Hispanic vote as well. You've certainly got then the union vote, things like that. But I want to focus, because what I hear out of the Harris campaign is that there is this upswing in turnout of women voters. Is this all about abortion to them?
I mean, I can only speak to, I'm no Jay or Jeff. Or Bruce, right?
Well, I'm glad you're not Jay or Jeff or Bruce.
Well, I'm here for like the looks, okay, I guess, because I don't know what else I have
Thank God for small favors.
And I'm a much better co-host than guest. That being said, I can tell you what was happening down here in Florida for a very long time. Lack of knowledge that some people have in Florida was they were making it all about the abortion issue. And I just kept saying to them, but it's on the ballot, right? So you actually have a say right now to change that. And regardless of your views on abortion, I just want it off, right? Because then nobody can sit here and say that was the primary issue of what they were going into the voting booth for. So that was driving me insane. What I'm hearing more down here is the younger women. So my cohort and below were doing it, saying, well, abortion for my children, for my daughters and things like that. Again, it's on the ballot. So if you want to say, go and vote.
Meaning it's on the Florida ballot.
It's on the Florida ballot to change the constitutional amendment, right? So, and by the way, worded terribly. So after you cut that out, which a lot of people were still going into the voting booth, I could ask people, okay, so just look, I can be open-minded. Tell me why Kamala, tell me why you are voting for Kamala. And the only answer consistently, even from the brightest people that I spoke to, women, was I can't vote for Trump. That was it. There was never any other explanation. Every once in a while, it was, I'm afraid that he's going to never leave office. He's bringing in people that are going to, take over, never leave. He surrounds himself by terrible people. He has, he meets up with KKK members. The Charlottesville thing kept coming up. But aside from that, nobody could tell me one good thing that Kamala did in policy. And it was all just because they didn't want him and couldn't vote for him.
So they're voting against Trump.
Yes.
And Jay, as a former RNC committee man, longtime RNC committee man, newly retired, hope you're doing well in retirement. What's the schism in the Republican Party? Because the Harris campaign has been really big about marching out all these people who either worked for Trump or are Republicans for Harris. I mean, where's the divide there, and how significant of a factor do you think that plays in this election?
I think it's pretty obvious that there are a lot of Republican leaders that want to see the whole Trump populist movement go away.
Yeah.
He's pushed a lot of Republicans, traditional Republicans, conservative Republicans to the sideline, and has been very brutal in attacking them if they are not 100% loyal. So there's a lot of undercurrent going on within the party to say, we've had enough of Trump, that we at some point want to take back the party. So that's really important as well. I want to just comment quickly on what Lori said. I think Florida is going to be really important when we take a look at the breakdown of the vote there and see what the difference is between the Trump vote, the senatorial vote for Scott, and the abortion referendum. I think that'll give us some real indication as to how important the abortion issue is for Americans, as opposed to leadership and the economy and all of that, and whether or not we can separate the two and which one will be more important. So I think that's a real important part of it. But to get back to your question, Robert, this is going to be a real test of the ground game. And a lot of the ground game within the Republican Party is from the establishment. And when we take a look at what's going on in Georgia and the Kemp organization, are they going to really commit to the ground game? Because Trump didn't really have much of a ground game. He's outsourced it in a lot of areas. So we need to take a look at some of these states and how much the establishment Republicans have gotten involved to support Trump going forward.
But Jay, I've got to push back on you're saying a lot, and I don't know what a lot means in Vermont, but down here in DC, that means billions. But the reality is Donald Trump is at the commanding height of Republican support that he's never reached before right now, going into the closing days of this election. If you look at Republican support for him, in the 2 months since Kamala Harris enlisted Liz Cheney to convince Republicans to cross over and vote for her, Donald Trump's support among Republicans has gone up.
I agree. I would agree with you.
So I hear you about the establishment, but those are vestiges, and it's really much more reflective of the realignment happening between the parties, where Republicans are becoming more diverse, more blue collar, less educated, less college educated voters than they used to be. And some of those, we used to, back in the days I first started getting involved in politics, call them the country club Republicans. Some of them are filtering out and deciding that feeling welcome at the cocktail parties is more important than the principles they said that they hold on to, even as some of those principles are shaking up.
Right. But I don't
think that there's a lot of Republicans out there that are actually.
We're talking two different things, though, Jeff. I think we're talking two different things.
I don't think we're going to see that in tonight's results.
But I think we're talking two entirely different things. The question, as I understood it from Robert, was the leadership within the Republican Party, not the rank and file. I agree with you that the momentum within the rank and file Republicans is all Trump. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere. People are coming out of the woodwork. There's never been enthusiasm for a Republican candidate the way there is for Trump. But what I was referring to is the leadership in some areas. I was talking about the leadership of Kemp in Georgia. We're talking about, the McConnells of the world, and even the Rick Scotts and John Thunes and some of these folks. I think they'd be much happier and much better off if Trump moved aside and gave more room to the traditional leadership of the party. And I think that's where I was going. I don't disagree with you at all regarding what the turnout's going to be and the enthusiasm for Trump. But I was answering a question in terms of the leadership.
Don't you think at this point, like a lot of those leaders have been filtered out among the state parties? I think the Trump campaign did a great job making sure that they got the right leaders in place in all the state primaries to try and make sure that they could run the gamut on the primaries. It seems like a lot of the folks in control of the apparatus, Ronna got thrown overboard because she wasn't bringing results. Do you think there's a lot? The Kemp organization is working hard for Trump down in Georgia. They made their peace. And they know they're a lot better off with him than.
I want to pull Dr. Bruce in on this, or Dr. America in on this. So Bruce, going off of what all three said, Lori and Jay.
Oh wait, hold on, Bruce. You were muted for some reason. Hold on, say that again.
Bruce
I was able to get my camera working, so
I love that. But a lot of what you've written about has been sort of the elites in the party establishment, right?
Yes.
And the elites in America. So the question really is, because I'm going off of Jay, what you said, because even post Donald Trump, the Republican Party is now a populist party, in my opinion. It remains to be seen what happens post Trump, but I can't imagine they're all just going to, dry up, go away, or maybe revert back to the Democrats. So Bruce, hasn't Trump transformed the party, regardless of outcome on this election, that it's now sort of as Jay points out, a populist party? And isn't it really sort of grassroots against sort of the DC elites?
No, I mean, look, Trump has been instrumental in it, but it's not Trump that transformed the parties. Okay, both parties have transformed. The parties today have nothing to do with what they were in the 1990s. And I'm evidence of this. Okay, I've now been a registered Republican for, I guess, 14 years, which feels like a long time. But the truth is, I was an active Democrat for about 25 years. And in 2005, I registered as an independent because I thought that neither of the parties were supportable. I am much more comfortable in Donald Trump's Republican Party than I would have been in George W. Bush's. I just, I did not like that party. When I looked beyond Bush and I saw guys like Trent Lott reading the Senate, I mean, this was not a party I felt was supportable. It reached a point where I thought that the Democrats were even worse. What happened for me, I will tell you, from 1980 to 2005, I thought the Republicans were a coherent party. There were factions I liked, factions I didn't like. I didn't like where they cohered. But the Democrats were a mess. There were a bunch of squabbling factions. You never knew who was going to be ahead. So I figured all the action is you join the melee and you try to get one of the factions you like in charge for a few years, which is largely what happened in the 90s. By 2005, the Democrats had cohered behind their very worst factions. 2010, the Tea Party, which, by the way, I still don't understand what it was, but it was effective. The Tea Party broke open the Republicans. So in 2010, I said, okay, now the Democrats are a coherent party pointing in a terrible direction, and the Republicans are a bunch of squabbling factions. I'm going to go join the Republican so that I can help my factions do well. And I've been very happy with the direction the party has taken since then.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I'm Ron Paul was like my gateway politician. When you start hearing, for me, I think a lot of people unknowingly are libertarian, right? They just want to be left alone. They don't want to spend a bunch of wars. They kind of want there to be a social safety net, but I don't want to be responsible. And so I think people are kind of like a default libertarian, right? And so I went from being kind of like a lefty Democrat because I thought that they were the only ones who cared about the environment.
Wait. Am I the only one here who wasn't a lefty Democrat ever in my lifetime?
I have a 1984 Connecticut is Bush Country Take a Hike Mike T-shirt.
Better. I don't feel so.
I was in third grade.
Barry Goldwater.
I take no personal responsibility. It's how I was raised. Okay, it's not my fault.
I had a room full of handmade McGovern posters in crayon.
And Lori, what say you?
I'm just enjoying listening to all of this. And I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time concentrating looking at Bruce's outfit.
Yes. I love it.
I'll tell you, you want to talk about drift. When I first started wearing American flag paraphernalia, it was considered hippie wear. Abby Hoffman got arrested for wearing an American flag.
These people don't know. Jay knows who Abby Hoffman is.
I have no idea who that is.
Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin were the founders of the Yippies. That was the Youth International Party.
I can picture Bruce being in Chicago this year at the convention wearing the same outfit.
but actually, but I will tell you, but Abby Hoffman wore an American flag shirt on the Phil Donahue show. Phil Donahue was Oprah before there was Oprah, and he was arrested for it, for desecrating the flag. Okay, and at about the same time, the Uncle Sam top hat became a signature of Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. So when I got into American flag paraphernalia, it was considered part of the left, and it kind of drifted. It kind of drifted over with me.
Right.
Hold on. I gotta.
Bruce,
wait.
Do you get more drinks with that now? Like people buy you drinks with that now?
It depends where I am, right?
In Florida.
No, Florida. I mean, Florida. I'll tell you, Sarasota is exactly where you want to be. It is a Republican-leaning jurisdiction with two actual political parties.
That's cool.
Which is actually a good place to be.
So one of our listeners, viewers said, I was a Democrat when I was a young kid. By 9, I cured myself. Josh, more power to you, man. Where
how
are
does
you?
one cure himself at 9?
I don't know, but that is
At least he was cured.
Right
wait.
That's all that matters.
You're the doctor of psychology. How does one cure oneself at 9?
Look, he obviously didn't need me, and kudos to him for doing it on his own.
I think the most important point is that the parties have completely realigned. And you would expect there to be people who were in the leadership of either party who were very unhappy with the direction their party took. And that's true. That's true at all levels. I think the key thing to look at is that you've got 30 states where new Republican registration has supplanted Democrats. And for the first time, really in memory, there are more registered Republicans than registered Democrats. Now, you never know how anybody is going to vote. But I will tell you that nobody who changed their party registration in the past 2 years is crossing party lines. Okay? There is nobody out there who said, I've always been a Democrat, now I'm going to be a Republican, but I'm going to vote for Harris anyway.
So that's it. You bring up
You're
the
going to hear
realignment.
something different later, Bruce.
Exactly. So Jeff Berkowitz, chess master, isn't one of the things that we're possibly seeing? I mean, look, the results aren't all in yet. Let's see what happens here. But isn't one of the things that we're possibly seeing is really that realignment of the parties long term? I remember in 2004, after, other than Colorado, Bush, pretty much, ran the table. And I remember Carl, Rove talking about, a long-term realignment in party structure, which didn't end up happening. And when George Bush, when 43 decided to take it out for a test spin, didn't do so well in 2006, as I recall. He had 2 years and that was it. But isn't it possible with the move within the Black community towards sort of the Trump populist policies within the Hispanic community, and we're presupposing what happens tonight, to the Trump populist policies, that you're seeing a longer term realignment as opposed to just something that begins and ends with Trump?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This realignment's been going on for the past almost decade. And you're starting to see more of it come through. Hispanics, by and large, typically, if you rewind to when when we were running President Bush for re-election, if somebody was an evangelical Hispanic, we had a better than 50% chance of being able to vote for Trump. If they were a Catholic, we probably had a 25 or 30% chance, because most the Hispanics that were Catholic tended to be less religious than the ones that had become evangelicals. And most of what we did with outreach to them and African American communities was through that lens of faith and family. Today, it's much more economic, and it's much more about the rule of law and public safety, and that resonates with a lot more audiences that are recognizing that the Democrats that have said they're the party to protect them aren't really actually protecting them for much. And I think we're in this age of gaslighting, where the government and many in the media tell us that the sky is blue when it's clearly cloudy and raining out.
Correct.
And you can only do that. And I have never been successful in betting against the intelligence of the American people in an election. They
they want to think we're all a bunch of dimwits.
Well, we are.
Yeah, right here.
I mean, we voted for Barack Obama.
Neanderthals.
You vote for Obama and you say, "Great, it's time we had a black man as
Hope
president."
and change.
But you voted for him again after you saw that he was not the most capable black man that should be president. And I think the greatest thing we have going for us now is we've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris guiding this country. And I think people are saying we're a freaking mess. And I think that drives a lot of people over to our side that would normally say, Trump's dangerous. Trump isn't who we really want. He's not even a traditional Republican. But look at the alternative here. This country is an absolute mess, whether it's economy, whether it's borders, whether it's foreign policy. We need a change. We need it now.
Well, I will tell you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
I was just going to say, because I wanted to talk to Jay real quick, because I know during your RNC days that you headed up for at least part of your time there, the Catholic outreach for the RNC. Where is the Christian community with regards to Trump? And again, I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush, because the Catholic community is one thing, the evangelical community. I mean, there's as somebody who is not of that persuasion, right? I mean, far be it for me to really understand the distinctions, because I get lost with all the different sects of Judaism, let alone Christianity, right? But how is that playing out this year? Because I know in 2016, let's just say the evangelicals or the devout, sort of the observant Christian community had doubts about Trump. Where is all that playing out now?
From what I'm hearing and from people I'm speaking to all over the country, the doubts are back. That the doubts weren't as much in 2020 as they are now. So he's moved away on a couple of issues that are very important to the conservative religious community, the faith community. The life issue. He is no better and no worse right now in a lot of people's eyes than Harris is. And we've seen what his wife came out with her book, and really a big slap in the face to the face of the pro-life community. That does not help. In my opinion, if he would have stayed the course, we would be winning this overwhelmingly and walking away with a victory, and everybody would be happy. You've looked at what in the evangelical circles and in the Catholic circles, the same-sex marriage issue, where he was kind of neutral on that back in 2016, where he's not neutral anymore. He's come out very much in support of that. So in the faith community, those are two areas which there's a lot of issues. And in the Catholic community, there's also issues regarding the border crisis and what he's calling people from Haiti and what he's calling people from some of the subcontinent, the Latin America that are coming to this country. So the peace and justice, the faith community within the Catholic group has lots of questions about Donald Trump and whether or not he's better or worse than Harris is on the faith issues. Fortunately, he's much better on the economic issues.
Jay, now, I struggled with this when I ran for Congress, right? You're trying to straddle a lot of topics to not alienate the independents. And so do you think that he is just trying to make it a non-issue? Like, is that?
I'm sure that's what he's trying to make it. But what it does is it makes people not trust you. Because you've changed where you are and who I thought you were. You are no longer that person.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think in any relationship, in our relationship with our elected leaders is not much different than your relationship with a spouse or a family member or a friend, that you need to know where they are and that you trust them. And when they change dramatically or you perceive them to change dramatically, then you have issues with them and your enthusiasm isn't there as it once was.
Yeah,
but,
Lori,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to hear what Lori has to say about this.
Sorry, Jeff. But with that being said, Jay, they're not switching over to vote for Kamala because she's consistently inconsistent. So if we're going to talk trust, so they're still going to not vote at all, or are they going to? Right.
Well, I think most of us trust Harris. We trust that she's an idiot.
Oh,
I think we know where she is.
I was like, where are you going with that?
There's no question about where she is. So there's you trust that she's going to do something poorly.
But isn't that why people don't trust her? Is because she's flip-flopped on all the issues?
But not on abortion.
I
she
think
hasn't flip-flopped on abortion. But here's the challenge, Jay. The pro-life movement totally screwed up the aftermath of Roe v. Wade. And they went from this being an 80% agreement country on being pro-life with reasonable exceptions to being an 80% the other way because they so botched the messaging in the aftermath. And I remember sitting with some of the leaders in that movement before the decision and saying, guys, just don't screw this up. You some reasonable exceptions and everybody goes along. The media and the Democrats are going to go into overtime trying to miscast you on this. And they played right into it. They went for national abortion ban. They can't be reasonable levels. They let the entire issue get defined in a way that made it untenable for Donald Trump to stand with them. As Lori was pointing out, women are overwhelmingly going to the polls and telling pollsters, telling the media, I'm voting because I'm concerned about my rights, my children's rights. Even some men are, college educated men are making a very uneducated statement that's what they're voting for. The pro-life movement lost all of the ability to control the messaging on it that they'd had control of for 3 decades.
And I'm going to say,
Donald Trump, if he had gone in with that, he would probably be losing several states that he needs to win.
But the question that Robert asked is, where's the faith community on this?
Yeah.
And one of the things that the faith community is not enthusiastic about him, and fortunately a lot of the faith community are in states that are deep red anyways, so his vote totals will be less, but they won't be enough to put Harris over. The other thing that he did that Trump consistently did on the life issue is he said people for 50 years have been saying we want it sent back to the states. The pro-life people want it sent back to the states. Pro-life people didn't want it sent back to the states. They wanted fewer abortions. So even his messaging on that is totally out of line with the faith community and what they believe in the Christian world.
But to be clear, for 30 years, the messaging was that abortion should have been left to the states and not decided by the Supreme
not
Court.
From the life people.
That was for 30 years. That was the message. That was the messaging.
That was the political messaging. But the rank and file pro-life people want fewer abortions. They don't care about the political ramifications and how states relate to it. It's all about fewer babies being killed. It's not about states' rights. It's not about the 10th Amendment. It's about saving lives of children.
I want to switch to Bruce. Bruce, you're the data scientist here. I want to shift topics a little bit. Let's talk to me. The other concern is polling. I know you're a data scientist, right? I know that's one of your bona fides, right? For the last, month, seems the last year, every poll I have seen shows that it's 1%, 2% margin of error, 0.5. How is that even statistically? Two questions. Number one, how is that even statistically possible? Because we all know that it depends on your sampling set. Are you oversampling? Are you undersampling? What questions are you asking? Or is it likely voters? Is it the entire electorate? How is that possible? And number two, more of a broader question. Politics has now infused everything in the media. Hasn't politics also now infused the polling industry? Because they haven't gotten anything right other than Trafalgar, to my knowledge, in the last, 8 years, 10 years?
Yeah, look. So, beyond polling, just statistics in general. What statistics does, once you get an idea of what's going on, is it samples a population. Okay, it's as I'm not going to ask 330 million Americans what they think. I'm going to sample the population. So the first thing you have to say is that if the population that you're sampling is not representative of the broader population, then what you're getting is noise. Right? So, what you're getting at best is, is the response of people who are willing to talk to pollsters. I don't think that they know what they're doing anymore, for the same reason that.
Or do they have an agenda?
Well, that too.
Because polling is also a business, right? I mean, there's the business of polling. And Lori, I want you to chime in from a psychology standpoint, both you and Bruce addressing this.
You know what? I'll tell you. Let me say, many years ago, I worked with a team at an oil company that was doing oil price forecasting, and I got to know that community. And I went to the professional conferences, and it was a conference with every major economic team from every major oil company in America. And I was talking to the forecasters, and you know what the saying among that community was? The best place for your forecast to land is halfway between Exxons and Shells. Okay? Because oil price forecasters or pollsters are like everybody else. If you're an outlier and you're the only one who's right, you're a superstar. But if you're an outlier who's wrong, you're dead in the water. If you're sitting with everybody else,
but everyone else is wrong. The outliers.
It doesn't matter. If you're wrong in the same way that it doesn't matter. If you're wrong the same way that everybody else is wrong,
there's no consequences.
You're fine. That's right.
That
you have
is
a
so
fine
lame.
career.
So wait a minute. So
it's like the
Lori,
weather people.
Cowards, a bunch of cowards.
Is there now, because everyone's naked, right? I mean, everything's on social media, everything's on 24/7 news, everything's everywhere, and there's almost no privacy. Are people, from a psychological standpoint, do you think that people are reluctant now, even more than they always were, to talk to pollsters, to give them accurate information?
We saw it. Yeah, we saw it last time. People were lying when they walked out saying that they voted for Trump. And look, how many husbands or wives don't tell their significant other even that they're voting for Trump? I know many people who have hid that from their significant other. And now that the other one is turning toward Trump, they're finally coming clean on it. I could tell you many stories about that. But absolutely, look, I will not question Bruce because he is definitely a million times smarter than I am. However, think about how polarized we are. The only people that are going to respond are going to be those extreme people who either want to get their opinion across, want to sabotage the pollsters' numbers, or just have really literally nothing to do. So seeing a fair representation in these polls, in my personal opinion, because the people who are going in there, they already know that anyone who's, I don't want to say in the 80% of the bell-shaped curve, they know that what's the results of this are meaningless, in my opinion. And I think that the same way our media is biased and the same way our educational system is now indoctrinating and biased, I think our polling is biased and for scientific. Because
so, Lori, I would add to that, if you talk to pollsters in this election, they're having a huge issue reaching Republicans. Republicans don't want to talk to them because they think exactly what you just said. They're biased and they already have an agenda. So they're having to weight things, and a lot of it's weighted by very online Democrats that are eager to talk to the pollster versus Republicans that are suspicious of them, and that's become a huge challenge in the public polling. But I will say, like, most of these pollsters are committed to the public polling, are absolutely committed to getting it right, but they do fall for what Bruce was talking about, which is you don't want to be out of it. You better be really sure about your data if you're going to be the outlier. Like I was texting with some political folks that I'm close with in New Hampshire today about the Dartmouth poll that came out, and I asked, were they drunk when they were counting that one? Because it was quite the spread. To say that Kamala Harris is going to win the state by 30 points, which has not happened since 1988, by the way, that any candidate has won New Hampshire by that large a margin. And that Craig was going to win by this outsized margin in the governor's race. And they just texted back to, I probably would have not released that. The other hopefully thing, we can ostracize them, Bruce. You and I can join together.
Oh, we can. But the other thing you have to remember is the pollsters flock to the places that are split about down the middle, right? Yeah. Why do we have 1 million polls from Wisconsin and very few from Illinois? It's because nobody politically thinks that Illinois is interesting. But from a polling perspective, okay, whether everybody thinks that Harris is going to win Illinois. I don't disagree with that. But the question is she going to win at 54-46, 57-43, 62-38? Right? From a statistical perspective, those are radically different outcomes.
Yeah.
But nobody's out there doing that because nobody wants to put money into polling Illinois because nobody cares if she wins by 4 points or 10.
Well, we did a little bit of polling here in Austin. That's going to be our final segment. We, interestingly enough, Jeff or Matt, can I call you Berkey? Am I allowed to? Are we friends now?
It's
Jeff-
Robert's prerogative. He wants to.
Oh.
No, I wanna.
Berkey. Well, listen, Berkey is a term of endearment and affection. So, because Jeff and I go back a million years together when we were both much younger. So, as long as he doesn't object, it is a.
That was actually my Bush campaign nickname. So that's typically the folks that knew me from that era.
Oh, I love it.
Well, and by the way, Ericka, that's because everyone associated with the Bush campaign from Texas had a Y at the end of their name.
Okay.
Berkey, Bobby, Ari, Joey, Billy. It was
Okay.
there was
You need to
always
keep
a
it
Y.
consistent.
I didn't, but I got a worse nickname, Jeff. So don't feel so bad.
Wait, we have to know what that nickname is now.
Oh, no. We're moving on. So what we have to share was a little bit of exit polling ourselves. And Jeff, I got to say, it mirrors what you just said, because really the only people who wanted to talk to us were Harris supporters. So or people didn't want to talk at all. So anybody who wants to stay on for this last segment, I know we told you guys a half hour. So if you got to run.
Well, no. Before I let him go, I want predictions.
Oh,
round
predictions.
robin. Mr. Shepard.
All right. And I want Lori, if you're available, I definitely want you to stay for this last part. Anybody who can stay, I want to stay. Lori, I definitely am
This can't be good.
I want exactly. I want predictions. What do you say, Mr. Shepard?
I did the interactive map and all of that, and I came up with Harris 270, Trump 268.
Ooh.
As tight as it could possibly be. Maybe what's going to happen in Nebraska.
So Harris wins Pennsylvania then. To get there, Harris needs to win Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Chess Master, what say you?
Jeff.
So that's interesting. I tend to think that Trump wins this. I'm not loving the early results that I'm seeing in North Carolina right now, but it's very early and most of the votes coming from Raleigh, so plenty of time left. I will say that some of the early races that Democrats were touting as being more competitive, like the Indiana governor's race, are thus far not showing out to be. So I do think it's going to be a pretty good night for Republicans. But we'll see.
So Republicans, how about Republicans, Democrats, Senate, Jeff? What do you say?
Oh, I think we're going to be 51, 52, maybe even 53 or in the Senate.
For or against Republicans?
Oh, Republicans. There's the only, the worst that Republicans can do is 50-50 because we're picking up justice.
Well, I'm real worried
so then
about
it just
Ted
comes down to the
Cruz.
presidency, who that swing is. But I think we'll get, we'll test her. Moreno is doing quite well in Ohio so far.
Don't we pick up West Virginia? Don't Republicans pick up West Virginia? It's pretty much a given.
Yeah, I mean that was a given. Once Manchin dropped out, there was no way that he was the last Democrat left, and he closed the door on the party headquarters on his way out the door.
I got it. So, Lori, what say you? I know you're in Florida, and you too, Bruce, and you're
Florida has already been called.
But what do you say nationally?
I have no scientific data that these guys all have. Right?
Which means you have a better feel.
Well, I'm just going to say, listen, I'm just a tinfoil hat girl. So I'm going to sit here and say that I don't believe it's going to be very, very close. And I don't believe it's going to be very, very fair. So I'll leave it that way.
Dr. America, AKA.
We gotta wait. We gotta play the scary music. Wait, hold on. We need the scary music.
Why do I get scary music?
It was Lori gets scary music.
It was my comment.
That was for
my
this is for
tinfoil hat
Lori.
comment.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I have a better hat.
Clearly,
I think Republicans are going to have a good night. I think that Trump has a shot at the popular vote, although the fact that there's not much to vote for in California tends to dampen that. I think he wins all the swing states. I think we pick up at least 3 seats. I think the Republicans pick up at least 3 seats in the Senate. I
You think he wins all the swing states?
Yeah, yeah.
So you think it's going to be a clean
Wow.
sweep?
You mean the Southern swing, that dance? So he's going to win all those states where they actually do the swing.
So, Ericka, pull up the map. Pull up the map we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Pull up the Harris.
The swing
nightmare
states?
Republican. No, the map that shows nightmare Republican for Republicans.
Okay.
It's the third one.
Do we get the Robert and Ericka prediction?
Of course you do. I'm going to show you the map first, though. No, not that.
I know. I told you. I got to bring it up before I can change the page.
Oh,
Cut me
man.
some slack. Hold on. 18.
Keep going. Yeah. Come on. There you go. Okay, so
Nightmare
here's
scenario.
the nightmare
Here we go.
scenario, right?
That's the one I have.
That's Jay's scenario.
Jay is the Republican nightmare scenario.
Exactly. So on this one, if you look at the map, guys and girls, she has to run she runs the board.
Yeah.
Right. She wins Pennsylvania. Right. She wins Minnesota. She wins Wisconsin. She doesn't win. I shouldn't say that. She doesn't win Georgia. She doesn't win Arizona. She doesn't win North Carolina. Back it up one though, Ericka.
Yeah. Well, and I got something to say about this when we're all done.
So this is more of what I see is a map like this. And I think Trump does win Pennsylvania. So you're asking me, Jay, what I think? I think Donald Trump wins. It's what I said in the monologue. I just want someone to win by wide enough margin that we can get away from, whether or not this was a free and fair election. So it's got to be outside they call it the margin of error. I call it the margin of shenanigans.
It wasn't a free and fair election. Nobody in their right mind should think that we hold credible elections in this country, and it's independent. That's independent of who wins. Okay, and what we do in this country, what we hold in this country are month-long scavenger hunts to see who can collect the most ballots.
Oh my God!
Getting citizens to vote for you is an acceptable way to generate ballots. It's not the only one.
Well,
okay?
and here's the worst part about that, Bruce, is that the census came out and said, "Oops, sorry, y'all, we made a mistake," and there are 9 electoral votes sitting in Democrat states that should be in Republican states. Yep. So if we don't have if we win, if it is Jay's nightmare scenario, the 68 to 70, everybody is going to lose their minds.
But
none
of our procedures work. Okay, nobody should trust this. This is not. I mean,
so you need a tinfoil hat too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just need a definition. An election.
Change the definitions anyway, Bruce. So go back to your
an election is a measurement instrument. Somebody tell me what our processes measure.
It doesn't matter.
I couldn't do that because we're running out of time and I don't even have the answer because I'm not that smart. However, I think the real nightmare or the real prediction that needs to be made is what happens once we find out who wins. Because I believe that either way, we're screwed.
Yeah,
that's my prediction. Burn, baby, burn. The cities are going to burn. If Trump wins, the cities the blue cities are going to burn.
We bought extra ammo. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, you can never be too careful.
So, Ericka, what's your prediction?
That no matter who wins, everyone's going to be stupid, and that's my prediction.
That's hardly a prediction, Ericka.
You know what? You guys, I felt good about our chances until today, and you'll see why in the next segment. I was very disappointed that the only people who talked to us, even at the Republican polling places, were Democrats.
By the way, tell Lord Benjamin to join this show, will you please?
Yeah.
Because he feels good about all of this. There he is. All right, Lord Benjamin, what's your prediction?
How do we do this? There we go.
Look at that. I love that. Look at that. 7. This is the best.
Oh wait, hold on, baby. You are muted. You're unmuted.
No.
This is one of the merch items from our store, the virus of the Immaculate Conception. Lord Fauci, Saint Fauci.
Dislike that guy.
There you go.
I do not like him at all.
Get rid of politicians.
What was the question, Robert? I'm sorry.
It's what's your prediction?
What's your prediction?
I still feel good. I think that conservatives don't like to talk much about how they're going to vote. We keep that close. We've been trained to do that because, especially where I'm in the fields I work in, it's dangerous. Okay, it turns into a lot of contention. So people just shut their mouths and keep on moving. They put a flag on something and keep on moving. So I still think we're going to take this. I think that people are smart, even though I do not trust people. They're smart enough to know that stuff is garbage right now. So I cannot imagine Kamala Harris, I cannot speak words in a reasonable way. Harris is gonna win. I've seen too many black people who don't like her.
I'm unburdened by what has been, though, Benjamin. I've been unburdened.
You've been unburdened
by what has been.
By what has been?
All right. So listen, as respect to our guests, I want to let them go since we only told them we'd keep them for a while, and I know they have popcorn and TV to watch. So Jay the Shepherd, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Bruce, thank you.
Wait, Robert, did you give yours?
I did.
Oh, that it's going to be good? Okay, go ahead. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Okay, proceed.
Dr. Lori and Chessmaster, guys, thank you. We
I
will.
was told I wasn't allowed to leave.
Yo, Lori's not allowed to leave, but thank you for
Lori has
being
to
on for the
stay.
segment.
And everyone else can stay. I'm not kicking you off, but it's just,
Yeah.
I know Bruce has a few parties to attend to with that hat.
Bruce wants to be here on the internet so people can see that fit. That's what's happening right now.
Jeff needs to leave. Jeff needs to leave so he can maintain his reputation.
Jay, where's the black sheep tie, Jay? Come on, Jay. That's a hell of a tie, man. I'd like to see you wear that.
Yes.
The black sheep's on here.
I love it.
I see it.
It's
I love
after
it.
hours. I don't like to, be working.
Say,
This is
Jay
enjoyment.
Shepherd without a tie. The world is coming to an end.
Where are the pigs flying?
retired.
Where are the pigs flying?
Exactly.
All right, guys.
Anyways,
Okay. All right.
Guys,
Who's staying?
thanks for being with us
Raise your
tonight.
hand. Who's staying?
And-
Who's going?
I gotta go.
All right.
see you, Bruce.
All right.
Appreciate
Bye,
it. Thank you,
Bruce.
guys.
Thank you all.
Bye, Bruce. Bye, Berkey. Yes. All right, Jay, you staying?
No, I'm headed out.
All right. Bye.
See you guys.
All right, Lori. Okay, so we went out. We went all over Austin, Central Austin. So we put together a map of some of the most conservative and some of the most liberal polling places. And interestingly enough, we got to talk to a Republican at the liberal spot, and we talked to mostly Democrats at the conservative spots.
And also, we got to talk to Patrick Bet David during this. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so we're gonna, let me see. I gotta put this. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna remove the slides out of here. We're gonna get this set up.
I love how she just narrates her life and what she does.
Well, then you entertain them while I click buttons.
I don't know how to.
You're clicking.
Look at that.
So,
Look at that. Look at that. That's how entertaining
Hey,
dance. Oh, snap. Look at that. Lori, you
so are we now officially after hours?
We are now officially. Oh, we can be after hours, but I don't think we need to be.
No, just run it.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did my
Nice
video-
sound effect.
There we go.
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, isn't that fun? We've got
Got this one too, so if you want to make scary sounds.
or oh wait, no, this one. Do you guys remember that illegal immigrant? He was asked on like ABC or NBC, like, did you come here because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris opened up the border? And he said,
Basically.
So we clipped it as a soundbite for the soundboard. That's one of the things I think it's so interesting. There's some of these topics that people are one issue voters on, and the border is a good one. So hang on, guys. Let's see. Can I? It's being weird. No, it was being weird earlier too. It's saying that I don't have a plugin, honey.
Really?
Yeah, it's saying it tried to make me download some plugin. So let's try this again.
That did not sound good.
Exactly.
All right.
Love the green.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, was I supposed to play the whole intro?
It's
No.
only like 30 seconds. Look at you
Oh, my
talking
bad.
to people. You're on the streets.
Hey everybody,
Nice,
we
nice,
are
nice.
here in Georgetown, Texas, getting exit polling, and we picked this location because it's one of the more conservative polling places in the city of Austin. So we were sure we were going to find Trump supporters. If nowhere else, we were going to find them here. And today we've got Chris. Okay, you don't have to give your name, but if you want to tell everybody who you are, you're welcome to.
Hi, I'm Chris Alexander, a resident of Sun City.
Excellent. And so now it's probably obvious to all our viewers who you voted for, but would you share with folks why you voted for Donald Trump and what mattered most to you? Like, what were your primary issues?
I think the border is a big issue. I think that we need to secure our borders.
Yeah.
I also feel that we've got to bring affordability back to America.
Yes.
I've got a daughter with 4 children who's struggling. So that's
Yeah.
a big important thing. But I think we've just got a great opportunity to take America back. And I think, too, we've strayed too far away from our values as Christians. So I think that's important.
We're here.
I thought it was really interesting because when we were talking to the Trump supporters, they were talking about how much they cared about their daughters and their children, but not about abortion. And then when we talked to the opposite side, it was like they cared about their daughters, and so that's why they cared about abortion. So Lori, one of the things I've been really curious about and I've been wanting to ask you is, like, as a therapist, what are you hearing from people? Like, what do they look at Benjamin blowing up his soda over there? What are you like? I know you
Not
can't
supposed to say nothing.
I
You're
mean, it was.
supposed
I
to just let me
gotta call it
handle
out. It was all over the place. Yeah, I should have muted you because it was. But I know you can't give. Obviously, you want to be careful not to give away any information on your clients. But, like, are they coming to you being like, "Oh my God, if I can't have abortion, like the world is going to end"?
No. but bless you. I'm echoing. I don't know if that's an issue
You good
at
now?
all. Okay, yes,
Good.
I'm good. I'm great. Thank you. No, they're not saying that. I mean, but people are coming saying they're one issue voters. And I think more than ever, I've been hearing that versus in other elections. I've always been a one issue voter. However, most people have not in my world, right? They're just kind of lean in one direction or the other. And this time, I hate to be, I'm saying this tongue in cheek as being funny, but the funny part about it was seeing, this is not clinically, this is just locally, was the cognitive dissonance that so many people were having between abortion and being Jewish. And, and kind of sitting there, not, because I'm Jewish, I can't have an abortion. That wasn't the cognitive dissonance was, wait a minute. So I want Harris because I don't agree with the 6-week abortion issue. But I want, I don't think Harris is great for the Jews, right? So it was like, which issue then became the bigger issue? And again, like I said, at least where we were, in the state of Florida, it was kind of the smart people figured out that it really doesn't have to be either or, it can be both, because we were voting on abortion on our ballots. However, that's what I was hearing more than anything. And the contradiction where people were like, yeah, I'm pro-Israel. And yet they were voting for Kamala for 800 other things because they weren't Trump. She wasn't Trump. She wasn't Trump. But really, when you held a mirror up to them and you said, okay, but like, you realize that the left is creating all of this and it's all about Western values, and you try to explain to them the whole thing, it's like la 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 la, and that's when they go back to abortion. And I think Jay had said it well many months ago to me. He said something like, abortion isn't an issue if the economy is good, right? It's when the economy isn't good or other things aren't good, then abortion or is it the other way around?
They got to find something.
the abortion is the issue. And I don't know. He said it very well. And if I remembered how he said it, it would have been even better. And of course,
No,
he
but
just jumped up. But the idea being is that people are using it when necessary. And
Correct.
it's not what people are really going into the voting booths for.
And that was my claim earlier, was I feel like this is, there's so many issues that get left on the table on purpose, so
Yes.
that they can
And I think the
run
left did
on
that
it.
intentionally.
Yeah. So this
You
one,
know.
not this guy, but the next, this next interview, whoops. This was a moment of do not judge a book by its cover. So I did not expect to get out of this man what I got. So this was another
cowboy boots and a Batman
a
belt
huge Batman belt buckle. I should have told. Oh, you can see it barely. But this was
enlarge the screen. Take us out, enlarge the screen. I want to see
Can
this.
I don't think I can.
I'm not sure. Me that?
Oh,
There you go.
yeah. Can you do it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this was another Republican leaning district in Round Rock.
Rock, Texas, with Jesse. He's just voted. And so who did you vote for, Jesse? If you don't mind me asking.
I generally vote Democratic.
All right, excellent.
According to my statistics about myself personally, I should be Republican. But I just cannot stand Donald J. Trump.
Okay. All right. So
Yep.
that was kind of the deciding factor, was
Mostly
personality.
mostly the way he treats women.
Okay. And now what about down ticket? How about the county,
Down
city?
ticket, counties and stuff like that, I vote for the individual. I don't
All
vote
right.
for the party.
Got it.
So my ticket is a combination of Democratic and Republican.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the word Republican.
Got it.
I have a problem with Donald Trump.
Got
So
it.
That's the extent of that.
And,
All right,
and
you guys,
that
we are here
was-
at the-
that was the refrain we heard over and over and over
That's
again.
what I said. That's what we're here. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me about the policy. Like I was taught, you vote on policy, you don't vote on people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so again, it's kind of like, okay, vote on policy, vote on the people that they surround themselves by. Those are the things, who are they bringing in to support them on the issues that they aren't great at and and need some strategic guidance on. That's how you judge people. And the other, again, my biggest argument when people would say to me, oh, but he's going to stay in office and he's never going to leave because of the quote unquote insurrection.
He's gonna be a
I'm like, dude,
dictator.
listen, 7 years of
Like
graduate
how?
school here and 20
Yeah.
years of being in practice in psychology. And I can tell you that I don't know everything, but I do remember very clearly learning that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
behavior.
The guy left. Okay. He left the office. We have proof he left office because guess what? We had Sleepy Joe in there for 4
Yeah.
years. So he left. So it's like these lame arguments that people just kind of throw out there. And it's just to shut everybody up and they don't listen. And that's really the main thing is how many of us have been in a room where we've been talking to some strong-willed leftists and you say one thing and there is no room for them to allow you to speak. They listen, but they will barrage you with irrational
This is when you throw the third punch.
right?
Got to interrupt. You got to interrupt the
Right.
the
But
circle.
because of what I do for a living.
You can't physically assault people, doctor?
I mean,
Nope.
I'm joking.
doesn't look good.
I'm
It doesn't
joking.
Not joking.
Zuckerberg.
Not joking.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
but
YouTube.
What I will say is that yes, that's all totally true. But when people talk about that, it's very interesting to me. You're saying that Democrats and progressives are weak because if you're looking at the voting, right, and half the popular vote is for one side and half just about is for the other side, right? You're telling me half the country, if Donald Trump just decided to just violate all the rules, half the military, well, more than half the military, most of the military, most of the people with firearms and weapons that would be able to oust him from positions of power would just go along with it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
What is that expression? That proves too much.
They just need to do what supports their argument, right?
Yeah.
And they need to say things that's going to make them feel better when they go into the polling.
Yes.
That's
So
really
it's about
what it comes down
emotions. Got it.
Emotions.
Yeah,
But people buy on emotion and
Yeah.
they justify on logic or ass backwards logic what they've already bought, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's an emotional argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's not a factual one. Then they try to back it up with facts and they have to create some.
Yep.
Well said.
You mean
exactly.
lie. Got
You
it.
lie, cheat.
Well, it's
Or
either
she's
that or they're
stupid.
in denial.
Well, look,
Lie,
and
cheat.
again, I don't want to sit here and say that I'm against all Democrats. Everybody is entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
Correct.
No, they're not.
But and did we lose one of the hosts?
His camera's out, but he's there. He's still in the background.
Okay.
I'm still
so I don't want to take anybody and rob anybody of their opinions and their vote. I believe that that's what makes our democracy so great.
Oh,
I don't have to agree with it.
See, now I do think we should rob people of their vote. I think we should get rid of all the amendments that allow everybody to vote.
No.
Because people
Yeah.
make terrible decisions, and I don't want them to be in
look,
charge of and have power over me.
Okay, but they're terrible decisions to you.
Yeah.
But they're not terrible decisions to half the country.
Right, but that's the whole point. Is like this is the problem with democracy. It is mob rule. Like, so because they can get half of the electorate, that means they can put their hand in my pocket and take my stuff. It means they can spy on me. It can
Wait.
so
But here's how I determine if something's a terrible decision. What are your values? So if your value is freedom and your value is Donald Trump is a potential fascist and he's going to do things to give him ultimate power and turn the government totalitarian, then that would mean you're a stupid person if you're voting for things that would give the government more power.
Yes, correct.
Wait, let me cook. Let me chef here.
Okay,
And
my
so I think objectively, I can call something a terrible decision if it is giving the people that you tell me I'm supposed to be afraid of more power. So if you disempower me, 2A, you disempower me by giving more power to the federal government versus the state government.
Yep.
And then you tell me you're terrified of Donald Trump. That's not objectively the right move to make. That's just me. I have a hard time squaring
we can
those
now
two.
we can now use lethal force on American people.
Okay. And my point, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Robert.
Lori. No, go ahead.
No, I didn't say the next part of my statement, but I
Oh.
agree with what you're saying. But I believe that everybody has their right to a vote, but be able to back it up with the reason how you got from point A to
Oh, yeah.
and that's the part that they can't necessarily do.
No.
Right. And so I'm cool if you're going to go.
Well,
with
but
and
but Lori, that's because they're arguing religion, right? They're arguing religion. When we cannot communicate with the mullahs of Iran, right? Because they are coming from a different worldview, and their worldview is different. Wokeism, the progressive left, the people who have this Trump derangement syndrome, don't. It's like it's a new religion, right? It's the religion of hatred of Donald Trump. So they have this emotional reaction, and then they try to grasp for whatever facts they can to back it up, even when the facts have been, like Charlottesville, have been debunked. Right?
Good people.
But at least let them say something, right?
Correct.
That and it's not there. But again, who am I to say that they can't? This is the world we live in, or the country that we live in. If you want to vote for that person, okay.
Please do.
Right? But just don't
vote.
But don't complain then, right? Because I can't tell you how many people voted for Obama. Right? Oh, hope, change. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then complains about him. And I was like, you did it. It's all
you picked him.
I want to point out, when I was an uninformed voter, he got me in the primaries.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, oh, this dude's cool.
Wait, who got you?
Like
Trump got you.
No,
in the
no,
primary.
No.
He
Obama.
won me over in the
won me over.
primary.
Yeah, he did in the beginning.
Nah.
What was it? Hey, what he said? Don't get all what?
Don't get all wee-weed up.
I got all wee-weed up. Okay, I wasn't into politics, and then I was like, this dude seems cool. He's well spoken. Okay, he's black. That's cool. And then I voted for him in the primaries. And then I paid attention to what he was saying because I was a Christian.
What he did. Yep.
And I was like, nah, I can't do this. So I changed my mind when it was time to actually vote.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We have a future Republican here because I'm going to skip around because there's a few interviews that I want to make sure we get to, but this young man he says he's working for a blue dog Democrat, which means once he gets a real job and sees the taxes that are taken out, he'll become a Republican.
Out.
So, but I thought it was really cool. It was a young man volunteering for a campaign. So that was really cool.
You look good in green, Ericka.
Thank you.
Look at those shades, bro.
Thank you.
Look at those
I'm telling you.
shades.
Hey.
On point.
Okay, here is the best. Oh, wait, hold on. This was the best view of the day.
Well, that matters.
Year's presidential election.
Okay, so hold on.
I think we overall could have had better choices.
Tell us or tell our listeners what your general thoughts are on this year's presidential election.
I think we overall could have had better choices, but we make do with the ones we have.
Isn't that the truth, Ramin? Okay, so what was your most important issue? Because we're in Austin, right? So you've got county government, you've got city government, you've got the feds, you got all the stuff. Were there any races that you were most excited or most passionate about?
I got to be honest, I escalated all the way to the top and just went to the presidential
vote. All right.
Clicked that box and moved on with my day.
Oh, all right. Yeah. That was it. Top of the ticket and then moved on. Do you want to share with the viewers who you voted for and why?
Well, what was important to me was stopping foreign wars, creating more M&A activity in the economy, protecting the crypto bag holders.
Notice the green jacket I'm wearing?
Hey.
The crypto bag holders?
Honestly, public health.
Yeah.
I feel like America's fat.
I feel like this might be an RFK voter.
If RFK was on,
you were an RFK voter?
I would have definitely voted for RFK, but he wasn't on. It was only Jill Stein as an independent.
Oh, okay. So is that who you decided to vote for?
No, I went with Trump.
All right, my
because
man.
Because if RFK is going to be in his administration,
I can say yes.
That could be powerful.
Yeah, that's what we're really excited about with that side of the aisle this year. Is it really feels like a coalition.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't, you've got Democrats or former Democrats, independents, progressives even, all coming together with common values.
I think that's the opportunity, is to be a little bit counter to the traditional system. And if they're able to pull it off and Trump opens the floor for some of those people to have autonomy and do their thing, I think it's going to be a win.
All right. Ramin, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, there are more than one Republican in the state of or in the city of Austin.
Has everyone else been Democrat?
Yeah, pretty much. Even in the red districts we've been to today, everyone that talked to us was voting for Kamala Harris.
Really?
Yep.
I wonder if Kamala fans are just more attention seeking, and so they went for the opportunity for the mic.
Okay, I didn't say it.
Ramin, it's Iranian, Persian.
Ah.
Yeah. minus the used car hair slick. Wait, so you're telling me? Hold on.
Wait.
Stay right there.
Okay.
Wait, this logic doesn't add up.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So
I'm just kidding. I like PBD. I just can't listen to it for more than 5 minutes at a time.
No, we watch them too. It's cool. Hey, if you can't make fun of, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, true.
So we actually have a bunch of friends. There's actually, now you said it, Iran.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it wrong.
You can butcher it. Doesn't matter.
Iran.
Yeah.
We have actually a bunch of friends here in the Austin area that are from Iran. And,
cool.
And they're like you. They're like not about this stuff.
Yeah.
Is it because of your cultural heritage and where you come from? Like, does that speak to why you vote the way
I think a little bit.
that you
I
do?
mean, look, my parents left the country right before I was born and moved to California, and I feel like I saw a really good American mobilization and wealth and class mobilization story there and saw what they've been able to accomplish. And I just want to make sure that those opportunities remain true in America. And it feels like the Democrats are kind of the party of censorship and control now, which is kind of crazy because that's definitely not the America I grew up in.
Yeah.
Look, I think at heart I'm like a slightly center-left libertarian more than anything else, but in this election I had to go with Trump because I think it just protects the republic.
Amen. All right, guys. See you later.
He was great.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't played. We'll close out with the quote of the night, but that was our favorite interview by far because it just really speaks to, when you're talking to immigrants, people who are, he's a first generation American. And so many, you've got Lily Tang Williams, who was an immigrant from China, who survived Mao's revolution. You have all these people who came here for the American dream, who appreciate it so much more than Americans do. How? Why? Where are we failing?
Well, hopefully after tonight, we will have started to the official restoration of the American Republic. And we would need Dr. Bruce with his hat and all on because that's his concept.
Okay, you guys, this is we're gonna take us out tonight with with a couple more little bits. Robert, do you want to say anything before we close the show tonight?
Folks, it's too late to vote. If you haven't voted, don't watch the show anymore. It's all I got to say.
No, stay on with us.
And you can stay. Oh, no, you can stay on with us. Just I won't be here.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Okay. So here is the last, here's the last and our quote of the day. It ends with our quote of the day, you guys.
I'm very surprised at how few people are willing to talk to us. Considering how much everybody likes to get online and cuss each other out and talk smack to one another and share memes and all this other stuff, and nobody wants to talk. All right, anybody want to share their thoughts on the election? Anybody? We're recording. If anybody wants to tell the news what you think, doesn't matter what your opinion is.
Oh, that's pathetic.
All right, see, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody wants to talk.
That's because you were dressed nicely. You should have worn your tinfoil hat.
Well, I think it was awesome that you guys went out and did it. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to do that, and the fact that there were 4 or 5 people that actually did speak to you is awesome. Yeah, but it does prove the point that these polls are completely biased and they're completely not statistically significant at all.
Yes.
Because your sample size is skewed from the beginning.
Yep. And okay, so this was Grayson on the UT campus, and we'll see y'all next week.
Gentlemen, nobody wants to talk.
Thanks, guys. Bring it home.
It is hot to vote, and your voice matters.